I really don't.
Episode number?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Bubble Man's World. Welcome to Hash Church. I think it's 149. I am here with Samurai Sam. Sam High is in the house. And dude, you're kind of the main reason Hash Church is happening today.
Oh, that's a hell of a statement, man.
Sam made it happen. Sam made it happen. He's like,
thank you very much.
I got some ideas. I got my friend Keagan. He's going to maybe do a CO2 run. It would be nice to have that conversation. Maybe we could talk about the fires. I was like, listen, if you can make it easy and we can go live, I am absolutely, it does say that there's no viewers though. Okay, there we go. We are live. Excellent. Little bit. Now we got to 27 and we're starting to come in. I was a little nervous there for a couple of seconds.
Well, I was happy I could come up and try to make something a little easy for you today. And hopefully some of the ideas play out and we can have a good chat about extraction here.
Yeah, well, I think that people, yeah, look at that. Woody. Cheers. Sam saved the church. You know, and Subcool's on the way. I don't know if he's on the way, but I am going to invite him. In fact, I should invite everyone. Why don't I do that? I haven't even, usually I send the links out almost immediately.
Well, I was here distracting you. So
you were. It's all your fault. Everything's your fault.
It's all my fault today.
The fact that we're having Hash Church, the fact that I didn't send out the links.
You can blame it all on me.
Dude, you fucking guy. Sam drives all the way up from Bellingham just to keep church going.
From Seattle.
How fucking cool.
But yeah, it's a fun drive up, man. You live on a beautiful highway out here.
All right, from Seattle now. Holy shit, you're not close.
I'm a little further. Yeah, I'm working down out in like West Seattle now, doing the hydrocarbon extraction game.
I wasn't even sure if anyone was going to show up because it was pretty much the last episode last week, but there's Etienne.
Right.
I'm back.
How's it going, buddy? How was your trip?
Amazing, awesome, crazy, nutty, fun. You know, you can see my pictures. I've been posting them.
I love your pictures, dude. I really do appreciate you traveling and posting your pictures. I'm always like, damn, Etienne's like a real photographer. He gets right in there. He's taking pictures of moose and shit.
Yeah, we were very fortunate. Lots of wildlife, and I've the right lenses. You know, when you got a 100-400, you know, it really helps in getting right in there. So, yeah, I was very fortunate that nature showed up, and it was really the first trip I've had with my mom solo, me, my girlfriend, and her, where I went out and spent a nice week going around the Yellowstone. So, but unfortunately, while we were away, we know that holy hell set loose here in California, and shout out to Subcool. I know he lost his farm. Shout out to Spark. They lost their farm. They were able to save their house, and numerous other farms have been lost. So we're going to be doing various benefits and stuff here real soon. We have a venue, and we're working on a date, and we're starting to pull bands now to try and get a little relief for people and have a little bit of fun. But it's going to be a long time. The fires are still burning. Shout out to all the first responders and firemen and their supporters who are out there right now making sure as many families and farms are saved as possible. So much love, huge shout out to the first responders, because they're on the ground doing it every day. And unfortunately, the death toll is climbing. It's 40 now, and it's going to rise. There's really no alert system here in Northern California to deal with the amount and as fast as that fire started and moved. So
yeah, it's
right now we're just trying to assess and find everybody. There's hundreds of missing people right now that we're just trying to, give our best wishes to and shout out, and we hope the very best. But it's dire here in Northern California right now, and until these rains come, which don't look till next week, it's only going to continue, because not many of these fires are near 100% containment in any way, shape, or form. Sorry to be a downer.
Part of the conversation today. I've invited in Soil King. I'm not sure if he's going to make it. I invited Subcool in, and Sam here as well. Wanted to make sure that we discussed just putting out all the right information for people so they know where the proper GoFundMe are, where you can put your attention and your energy if you want to help these people that have, just utter and complete devastation. And in the meantime, welcome to Dr. Mark. Thanks for showing up. He's got his guitar on his arm. And
hey guys, what's up? Hey Sam, what's happening, man?
Oh, good to see you.
Howdy.
Oh, two Sams in the house.
The Skunkman. Good morning.
How are you doing, Sir Skunkman? Nothing?
Yeah, I guess he's trying to get his mic.
Me?
Yes.
He's just juggling his microphone.
No, I was letting my wife get past the microphone line.
You're such a gentleman. Good morning to.
I guess I could have roped her and tied her up and made her listen.
Yeah, I don't think you need to do that. I think she's good to go the way she is. No roping up with the women.
Sam getting kinky all of a sudden, huh?
He's getting something on Hash Church. Sam's always got the best humor, though, really. Like, if you want to step out of your reality just for a second.
And if you need a bone pipe, I know where to find him. Right?
I see you got a pipe there in your hand, Etienne. Is that what's happening right now? We're hitting dabs?
Yeah,
down.
well, it is last time I checked Hash Church, and I've been away a couple of weeks, so I got some catching up to do. So starting off with a shout out to, of course, Skunkman Sam, because I'm smoking some haze here. So thank you. Much love.
I smoked some beautiful haze yesterday with Dr. Natasha and her husband David, and it was really, really nice. It was Della Haze, it was called, and I liked it. I hope Dr. Natasha gets on today and we can talk a little bit about that cultivar.
And Sam, it's good to see you, sir. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be back. I popped into that 3rd anniversary episode at the very, very end and didn't have a chance to say very much. So Marcus was kind enough to invite me up, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Right on. Yeah, I wasn't there, unfortunately, for the 3, so happy to see you.
Missed you, man.
Yeah, Sam really kind of made the episode happen today. He came up with a bunch of different kind of conversations and concepts to invite some new people in, and so that'll happen here today. We're going to invite Keagan in to talk a little bit about his CO2 extraction.
Go ahead. What are you puffing on, gentlemen?
Oh, we're puffing on some Nukem right here. A little bit of rosin.
Ooh, pretty.
Gift from the Maple Butter Boys out east. And then I also have a little bit of full melt dry sift.
Just a little.
Yeah, well, it's actually not. It looks like probably more than it really is, but.
Well, man's telling me he's got almost no hash, and I just see gram after gram getting some on the desk.
Well, I just got these little jars, and I'm down low. Let's just say, and then we got Johnny B's Medikush somewhere that we're gonna squish on the M1 at one point in time today. So we'll see how that goes. Jason S, is that your son, B-Man? Do I look that old? Do I look that old? Yes, Sam is my son.
Sam, you've grown so fast. I mean, I cannot tell you, what are you feeding him? Miracle Grow?
Just a few minutes, I was crawling around trying to throw race cars underneath the door here.
That's awesome. That's so good.
Marcus, you do have an older child, though, don't you?
I absolutely do. And in fact, my older child lately has jumped into the wonderful world of building his own gaming PC. So we've spent the last few days buying components off of Amazon so he can build this PC. So I'm kind of excited for him to enter that world. It was not a world I ever entered, but it's definitely a cool world that maybe could lead him into coding or some other kind of interesting things in regards to playing with computers.
At least he has the interest and has something he wants to do. I remember those little kits, the radio kits and stuff I used to get at Radio Shack, and I used to love putting together the transistors and then the FM, and then you had the 60 different components ones. And I mean, I wish I would have had access to computer components so that I could actually build a computer. Now you can just go, I need this, I need this, I need this, and this, and I need the box. And I mean, it's incredible what they can do. So is he into Minecraft or anything like that? Or is he just
he was into Minecraft when he was quite a bit younger, like maybe around 11. He's 14 now. So he's into like, just like any type of violent game that he can like hunt and kill zombies or like creatures or, he's a 14-year-old boy. I mean, I'm pretty sure all of you guys were 14-year-old boys at one point in time. So
into the most wholesome entertainment.
Yeah, the most wholesome entertainment that he.
Yeah, the key thing is boy.
Yeah, he really is the quintessential. So it's awesome. I like it. He's
great for you for supporting it and encouraging that. That's
yeah, I support whatever my kids are into. It's when he came to me and wanted to learn to play piano when he was like 11 years old, and he was like, "Hey, I want to learn piano." I was like, "What? All right." kind of got him this little toy piano, but he's like, can I take lessons? And he was like, I want to learn how to read music. I was like, okay, now he just reads music. So lately, and Sam will hear today, all the songs in my house are all the songs from Rick and Morty that he's printed off the computer and learned on his computer. And let me tell you, these are real songs. These are not simple like chopstick type shit. This is, I can't even understand this music at all. I look at it and it looks like another language. So I'm always stoked.
He's getting swifty.
He is getting swifty, I'll tell you.
The musical mind develops in ways that is just completely, it's a non-linear thing. It's like chess players. You're constantly thinking about what's next. It's just,
dude, he's playing music fast and turning the page. I'm like, what?
That's awesome.
Look on the bright side. I could read and write music when I was a child. I don't remember it at all.
Nice. That's Sam style. Okay, everyone's like this.
Yeah.
All right.
Whereas I learned myself, I learned how to read music in chorus, but I could hear it. And so whereas my brother and my father had perfect pitch. So I was always fascinated by music, not as well as in math, but I'm always fascinated by music. And so I picked up, I remember a steel string guitar my brother had. My brother's blind. And so he played piano exceptionally well. So my aunt and uncle thought that if they got him a guitar, he would be able to do that. However, the guitar was a steel string Sears Roebuck piece of shit. And as I know Dr. Scialdone will definitely attest, pressing your fingers on those is a beast. And for a blind person who reads Braille, et cetera, it was just too hard for him. So I was very fortunate to have a guitar around to pick up. Otherwise, I don't, besides chorus, I don't know where else I would have been able to go with that. But I was able to find bass and other things. So I've really a huge supporter of music in youth. And, it really opens the mind and the experience exponentially, because you learn to listen to parts of music. You don't just listen to a song. You learn to, like, as a bass player, I learned to pick out parts of songs and parts of things, so that I had to study that and understand that, follow the drummer, and, not think as a guitar lead or, anything like that. I had to think in a completely different mindset. So it also gives you different understandings of your place in the music as well, which I know Dr. Scialdone will, that's what makes a band. Everybody has a piece and a part to it. And when you understand that, I mean, it's a great understanding of concept and idea, and it opens the mind to so many other experiences and ability to communicate with other people. So, I mean, your kid could be in a band or something like that, you know what I'm saying? And understand.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Who wouldn't rather have their 14-year-old kid getting swifty over squanching all day?
Word.
The Rick and Mortys. The Rick and Mortys. Sam and Mark are probably like, what is this strange language these two speak? You guys got to get caught up on your Rick and Morty, or you will not be able to communicate with 11 to 14-year-old boys at all.
You'll miss out on all the Szechuan sauce.
Then you'll miss out on all the Szechuan sauce. This is true as well. Chill. So I got Cuban Chronic trying to get into the room right now. He is, he was going to take us through his drying room. And I guess he's like a lot of people in Oregon right now, which is like, and Washington for that matter. It got so cold. A lot of people's, I saw Benson Elvis, his field was frozen. It was like fully fresh frozen on the field the other day, like big, beautiful plants, just like frozen. Pretty, that's got to be nerve-wracking. Etienne's face says it all right there.
Nothing good about freezing your plants outside due to weather. I mean, it's bad enough when your regular plants or any annuals or anything like that. I've been very fortunate never have to have that issue or problem, but I'm shout out to those that are. I know that's frustrating as hell. I mean, because
and before his plants froze, did he say that his area in Southern Oregon or wherever he was at was the most beautiful place to grow cannabis?
Yeah, right before his plants froze, he said that. You are such a bastard. It's awesome.
Hey, Mark, here's my son, Jake. He's 20.
Oh, hey, welcome, Jake.
Hey, Jake. Hi. Welcome.
Nice.
How are you?
Young Sheldon.
So does your dad make you play acoustic guitar too?
Yeah. I've been playing for a while. I just picked it up because it was just around. It's convenient.
He plays drums, though.
He plays drums.
Well, he plays drums and he plays bass, and upright bass, too.
Nice.
He played upright bass in the orchestra, in his school orchestra, but then you could play regular.
Yeah,
electric bass.
I play electric bass too, but I play a lot of drums.
Nice. Well, I mean,
Mostly drums.
you're right in the rhythm section there, so now you just sit in the pocket. So right on. I'm a bass player myself, so I love the double bass just because I grew up in New Orleans with jazz and everything. So kudos on that. That's not an easy instrument to pick up.
No, it's not an easy instrument to bring around. It's a pain in the ass to bring from place to place, but it's rewarding once you learn how to play an instrument like that, for sure.
Yep. No, I'm always staring.
What about the hash scene? What do you think about the hash scene?
What about it? What about it?
What about
It
it?
needs to come out to Pennsylvania. That's basically the bottom line. Don't pick the states, but
That was awesome.
some are more progressive than others, obviously. But
No, we've been in
There's a-
Pennsylvania for years. All you have to do is shake the trees.
there's a clear need.
Yeah, I grew.
There's a clear need and want for it here. I mean, I can tell you the market exists. So
Well, it's coming. I mean,
That's the generation right there that we're catering to, because they're the ones that got the money.
and it needs to happen.
It's
I mean,
our money, but they got it.
yeah, it's a commonwealth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a commonwealth. Right?
it's Commonwealth state.
That's a good point. Good point. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Commonwealth. No, but Pennsylvania, I feel like has a long way to go, just as a state.
But
like
we have a
that,
rich
but-
history. You know, in William Penn's Pennsylvania, you were taxed if you did not grow hemp.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because what did Her Majesty need? She needed ropes and sails and oil and all kinds of shit that you get from hemp. So not too far from our front door here
West Hempfield.
was the cradle of the hemp industry during the 13 colonies when this was run by William Penn. We actually live in Penn Township, the township that was allocated to the Penn family, Penn, Penn. And yeah, he was a big advocate for hemp. What they find here is they have the millstones are conical that they used to grind hemp with, because I guess if you use flat millstones, there's too much surface area contact and you don't get good, draining of the oil or the flour or whatever they're grinding with it. So the conical millstones that they find in the old farms around here in Pennsylvania were used for hemp grinding. Yeah. Conical millstones. Who would have thought, right?
It'd be cool how well, I guess it would have never gone away had it not been for prohibition, but also, the history of all of that stuff was so buried as well. It's not as easy to find.
There's literally towns around here named after
Hempstead.
the hemp production. There's a school district, West Hempfield, up by where Millersville is, Millersville University.
Yeah, and here's a book written by a friend of mine called Les Stark, called Hempstone Heritage Mark, that actually I've been trying to get Les on Hash Church. Hopefully one day we can get him on.
Yeah.
He's an advocate, Harrisburg, and he's written this book about the hemp industry in Pennsylvania, mostly just by researching old newspaper articles and whatnot, and just going to old libraries and digging up stuff, because it was a whole big industry for a real long time.
Up until
Not
the
only
30s.
that,
Up
Mark,
until the 30s.
it was still operating till the early 1950s.
Yeah, so it's like, it sucks that doesn't exist anymore, but it should come back, and our governor actually supports it. They do have a hemp thing that passed with a very large majority on both sides of the aisle.
But you're still
And I
gonna
know
need
that
really-
there's a lot of interest in it, but they only let these people grow very, very small acreage. They were only able to grow somewhere between 3 and 5 acres. And I think we discussed on a previous episode, one of those was just at an old anthracite coal mine where they were just using the hemp field just as a phytoremediation process, because there was just basically a barren wasteland things of this old mining industry that used to mine coal, and coal's pretty toxic. There's a lot of toxic shit in coal, but and they didn't throw any topsoil, or they didn't till it at all. They just threw a bunch of seeds down on this old sands, which are old processed, tillings from the ore and from the mine. And wouldn't you know it, that a whole bunch of plants still grew anyway. You would think that, you know, if you just throw seeds out on this, it's like kids in a parking lot. This stuff's not going to grow. But certainly a whole, and in areas there were clusters of plants that grew. They're just going to do some kind of study to see, does that sort of remediate the soil in a way that they can reclaim it for agricultural or other uses, you know,
for forest uses.
Because right now I don't know that it's a toxic waste site, but I think it's like dead land. They can't do anything with it.
Yeah, there's whole sides of mountains in central Pennsylvania where you can go, and it's barren. There's no trees. There's no anything.
Yeah, because they just
from mine tailings. They
do what they call mountain topping. I don't think they practice that anymore in Pennsylvania, but they still do it. They still do it, Etienne, in West Virginia, where basically they just obliterate the top of the mountain.
No, they take away the entire mountain, starting from the top down. They just plane it all the way down.
They need to let Paul Stamets inoculate that mountain.
When you hear this asshole in the White House talk about go coal and coal industry, I mean, we all need clean air to breathe and clean water to drink.
So do our
and that coal industry is never going to be where it could be done safely, such that it provides, you know, energy that is safe, because all the people who live around those areas are poisoned with toxic runoff, and the mountains just look horrible. And they end up planting, you know, all kinds of green fields up there, so it looks like meadows and everything. But it used to be old growth forest.
Beautiful old growth cedars and pines.
Yeah, I mean, you could just tell. It looks like the earth's been scarred, and it just looks very.
It is scarred.
Almost like a haphazardly way. Almost like a checkerboard kind of thing, where you can see that certain plots of land were like clear cutted and just.
I have faith in humans and nature. When I listen to this, I think Paul Stamets. I think let him go inoculate those mountains like he did with that pile of like.
To inoculate the people first, right? It's the people who are doing this.
That need inoculation in those
that's the beauty of inoculation. That's the beauty.
Don't get it.
Right.
You need to inoculate them with knowledge and a lot of good hash.
You know, they're just starting to get it now that their tap water is catching on fire. They're fracking those areas so bad. I mean, literally, people are taking showers, lighting candles, and their bathrooms are blowing up.
Yeah. Well, not only that, I mean,
we get free hot water.
What?
Yeah. But the thing is that they're removing the topsoil along with it, so they're left with just rocky tops. So I don't see any hemp or any grass really growing there. I mean, they've removed everything.
I
have a question for the group, and I don't know. This is Wade.
Welcome, Wade.
Good morning, all. Here in Nevada County, we had gold mining back in the 1800s, and there's square miles of Nevada County that still look like a moonscape. It's just they did hydraulic mining and washed away all the soil to uncover gravel beds that had gold in it. And meantime, in extracting gold, they left behind mercury. There are mines in the area, old mines that water runs out of them that has arsenic and mercury and
sulfur.
All of these things going on. And so the question is, and I don't know if Mark might be the one or Sam that would have an answer to this, but because cannabis is a bioaccumulator, one of the concerns I have is that it picks up these heavy metals as well as pesticides and fungicides that we've discussed at length. But to what extent does cannabis concentrate things like mercury or arsenic or whatnot? And what do we do about using plants like that for medicine?
But I don't know exactly which heavy metals it picks up in the highest concentrations. I know you wouldn't have to worry about gold or silver, but unfortunately, most of that's gone, and what's left is the real toxic shit.
I think sunflowers pick up nickel. Cannabis picks up
cadmium. I mean,
well, that's been one of the big debates regarding industrial hemp for reclamation projects going back to 96, done at a farm in an old iron mill in Poland, and that they're even starting to do reclaim areas in Japan using hemp. The discussion is, well, what do you do with this hemp now? Because it's toxic. It is now, that would have, I mean, Fukushima and stuff would have full-on, Fukushima would have full-on radioactivity isotopes inside the plants. We know that the plant can actually uptake those. So then I've had this discussion many times. What do you do? What do you do with these plants? You can't strip them of fiber, because the fiber would possibly have radioactivity. Put the lignin,
theoretically, once it's been sequestered in the plant, and they've done this with things like malt and barley as well, because, again, as you know, anyone who's cooked from barley knows that barley absorbs many times its weight in water. So barley has been used in sequestration. Once you have it sequestered, now you can take that and in a controlled facility, do an incineration of that and capture the toxic metal in the ash. In fact, so concentrated can the toxic metal be in the ash that they actually refine that to get the metal out. So it actually is a cash flow positive situation if you're trying to remove toxic shit like lead, tin, mercury, because all those shit have some industrial, commodity value. To just phytoremediation in general, you're absolutely true. And I think what Wade's concern is that if you're cultivating cannabis for human consumption and you're in these zones where there's been, mining activity that has completely destroyed the natural landscape, Wade was saying they're seeing arsenic and other things that have been unearthed that would normally not be an issue if they had not done the mining activity, and the mining activity usually leaves a trail of toxic. There's Superfund sites, and if you look at those Superfund sites, 8 out of 10 of them are mining sites where they basically just mined stuff till it got so toxic, and then they just closed. It's no longer economical, and then created a Superfund site to be cleaned up. But the point is that if you're growing cannabis and your cannabis is exposed to those things, absolutely, there could be some trace level of some of these toxic, if you're using water that's not treated and you're not making sure that there's not, those types of metals in your water. And arsenic is not, arsenic is actually funny because it's actually not a metal. It's actually what they call it's a semi-metal. It's almost a non-metal, but it's not arsenic itself. It's not arsenic metal, but it's arsenate. And arsenate, which was in chromated copper arsenate, which was the treatment for pressure-treated lumber for years. Those green telephone poles and the jungle gyms and the picnic tables and all that. That green stuff was chromated copper arsenate. And as long as that wood goes out into eventually landfills and out of service, that arsenic leaches into groundwater, and that arsenic can, if you're using groundwater to water your cannabis plants, could essentially create a background level of arsenic in your water in grow. So yeah, these are things that you have to test your water for, and make sure ultimately you test your flour and your concentrates to make sure that, again, I think the point that I think Wade was bringing up, which is that some cannabis production is in and around areas where the mining industry has left an incredible, unbelievable bad impact on the local, ground and the local groundwater.
Yes.
And the populations of people, because I don't know if it's correlated to meth use, but there's a lot of meth use in West Virginia. I don't know if there's anything.
There's a lot of joblessness. There's a lot of homeless. It goes deeper than meth use.
West Virginia. We've been to West Virginia.
There's a lack of industry here because of these people's reliance on a industry that is dying. They don't know how to adapt and how to grow and how to move into a new industry like cannabis.
But not the answer. And every time he gets up there and it's like, oh, coal, him and Scott Pruitt should go fuck themselves because we're not going back.
But what jobs
energy by coal?
Hey, not to interrupt you guys talking about politics and all, but how about we welcome D420k into the room, Wade Laughter into the room, and someone who's never been on Hash Church before, a new panelist, Cuban Chronic in the house. What's going on, dude? Last time I saw
What's
you,
up,
you were surrounded by huge plants last time I saw you.
Yeah, I'm surrounded by a dab right now.
All right, well, you do your dab, and we'll see what you have to show us in a little bit here.
Definitely need it.
Yeah, we needed to get the conversation back on track, away from anything. If we talk about politics, we'll get emotional.
Well, we were talking about coal, though. We were talking about coal, and we were talking about
getting shifted
how
to
the mining industry
White House.
has an impact on grows, right?
All right, what's your
Over.
Oh my goodness. Jesus.
Just to carry on that conversation. What is your shirt?
Exactly
Yeah.
what I just said.
What is that, sir?
I bought it at a 420 rally a couple of years ago. I think it's a woman empowering fucking shirt or whatever, and I wore it quite a bit. And I'm walking down the street, and I get attention from every shape and size and age of human being that's walking towards me when they see the shirt. Everybody looks, and I'm cruising around the street thinking, "Look, I think I look pretty good today. I must have my beard combed up nice and my hair slicked back." And then I see the shirt, and I remember I'm wearing the shirt, and it's fucking hilarious because everybody, old, young, they're just like point their buddy or their partner. Look at that.
Damn.
It's pussy free. It stands out.
That's pretty funny, dude. That is actually, and it was quite a funny story to be told while Cuban Chronic was showing his plants hanging.
That's quite the fucking plants. Holy shit.
Yeah, for real, dude. What are we looking at here, Cuban?
Yeah, what variety?
Oh man, we got a lot of variety in here. But first, I want to give my respect to all the panelists, everybody on Hash Church. I really look forward to watching it every week.
Yeah, well, you've been hanging out in the chat room for a long time.
Yeah, man, I've become an addict of it, man. You guys are definitely some of the best I know of. Right here, this is actually an 818 headband, and it is very fuely.
Yeah, see. Need that 4K.
How many grams do you think you're getting a plant of that?
I'm not sure. We usually range somewhere from 3 to 5 a plant, but sometimes we hit like 7 or 8 pounds.
Boom.
And do you prefer to dry with all the leaves still intact?
Yeah, we just hang dry them like this, man, just like tobacco, kind of. What do you guys think?
Well, I used to kind of think that I agree with that because I felt the plant was going to lose 90% of its weight, water, and it can either do it through the leaves, or if the leaves are all gone, it'll do it through the flowers. And for some reason, I felt it was better to do intact leaves. But I don't know that for a scientific fact. It's just what I felt in my gut.
I'd
Right.
go with your gut, dude. I'd probably take your gut over some scientific facts
Well,
in regards to
luckily, my
cannabis.
gut's big enough that there's enough for everybody.
No, but that makes sense.
Yeah, I will say,
That water. Go ahead.
I was a trimmer before I was a grower, and I definitely prefer the hang-dried plants as far as smoke and just trimming it in general.
You trim over screens?
Yes, sir.
Good stuff.
Yeah, before I had screens, I was pretty much trim it while it's wet sort of thing, just to.
Oh, the dry sift.
But now I see, it's all on different gardeners, it seems. Some are in favor of cutting it while it's wet. Some are in favor of cutting it while it's.
We were kind of forced to harvest out here. We got some frost a couple days ago. It was like 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And we left a few out, but we covered them up a little bit. I don't know if you guys could see that. But
Those are big plants.
frost is definitely unkind to these plants.
Yeah, no shit. I'd be cutting those branches right into my bags.
I've seen a few varieties where really cold temperatures speeded up and made it get frostier. but almost all varieties don't like it when it comes to.
You can just see how empty the garden is now.
So what happens? Is it, Sam? So ice crystals just form inside the water crystals, or?
Yeah, well, if that happens, it absolutely fucks them. Yes.
Oh fuck.
Some varieties are very sensitive. Other varieties are fairly resistant. Either from maybe the resistance comes from genetic history, and others. Is there a lot of cold where their parents are coming from?
So things with Afghanistan kind of influences would tend to have, you would think, have that type of biodefense. Things from the upper mountains.
But the bottom line is take your clone and leave one outside when it gets fucking cold, and that's the way you learn.
This is some lavender from Soma.
Damn.
Left it out. It's nice and purple. Those can tell it was true.
What's that?
I said, when did those go on the ground? Cuban?
Yeah.
When did those go on the ground?
It was a bit of a late start this year. We usually get in early April, but we were instead in like early May, if not mid-May out here. I'm in Eastern Oregon. It's fairly dry. We usually get a longer season than this, but it got too cold too quick, and then it rained right before it got cold, so we got a little scared. Not gonna lie.
Lots of people were getting scared. It was either fires burning their plants down to the ground, or
oh man,
freezing weather coming in and freezing. Did you see Benson Elvis's garden?
No, I didn't. I really am feeling for Subcool, though. I feel real bad for him.
Oh, dude. I know. So many people. So many people. I mean, quite a few lives lost. I think it was over 7,000 structures that burned to the ground.
Oh, my gosh.
There was a neighborhood in Santa Rosa where houses would burn on one side of the street down to the ground, and on the other side, no damage at all. Like it was either you're gone or you didn't get touched.
That's crazy.
It really is. Like that's also almost some like, what's that all about?
It's terrifying.
That's something.
And after I
so what do you do if your outdoor material does succumb to frost or a snowfall? Does that completely? I mean, you whack it down, but what does that take away from potency, or what does it do?
I'm really not sure. You guys are the scientists, right?
Are you talking about frozen?
No, I'm talking about like if you're right just before harvest,
yeah,
and you're trying to get one more day of growth, and you just try to get those things out, but you come out one day and your stuff either succumbs to frost or a snowfall. Does it really deleteriously affect the quality of the material?
Maybe not the resin so much. My worry would be that it would potentially like that the resin, if it could burst.
It'll change the color. It'll change the smell a bit.
Taste.
It'll change the taste a bit. And most people don't find those changes favorable. And if you let the plants really freeze hard, it turns it into black goop soup.
Oof.
Yeah, I've not had much experience with hard freezes. We're at 30,000 feet, more or less. And but I have had a couple of harvests that got abundant rain on them before harvest was done. And they didn't seem to mind it much at all. They put a lot of effort into supporting the weight of the branches before they fill in.
So isn't it amazing?
Did you get a higher incidence of mold that year, Wade?
No, I've got a pretty good drying setup, and we had good sun right after that. Last year, for example, in October, California started getting rain. We got a lot. We had over 100 inches of rain here after 4 years of drought, and in October, in about 2 days, we got 10 inches of rain all at once. And we still had probably half the garden was still out there. And we lost a couple of branches. But for the most part, no. The sun came back the couple of days after the rain. And it came on slowly. We had some cloud cover and nice breeze, and the plants perked right up, and we had a nice finish. Had to use a dehumidifier in the drying room because the ambient humidity here, with all the rain that followed after that first storm, yeah, there was no way they would have dried with ambient air. We had to use dehumidifier. But the plants themselves seemed to do fine. Didn't see much mold. But the cultivars that seem to be high in CBD, at least in my experience, are for the most part not very susceptible to mold. That's something Sam has talked about before. And I don't know the specifics of that or the why of it, but it seems to be my experience that they're not real susceptible to mold. I'll say it like that.
It's pretty amazing that you think that you can make really tasty material from fresh, frozen, freshly harvested material, yet if the plant is alive and is frozen, there must be some inherent biochemistry that happens within the plant to make it either susceptible to mold or, like Sam was saying, make the color change, make the different.
Part of what would go on is if in a hard freeze, all the water in that plant would expand and burst the cell walls of every bit of the plant material, and that's why you'd end up with that mush Sam was talking about. It'd be a big soup of everything.
Yes,
like I said,
when you do fresh frozen material, that's happening anyway. So if you take the plant and you harvest it, and the plant still has a decent amount of water in it, frozen process, you're still doing the same thing. So I guess I was, kind of thinking about this in terms of if a grower came out and all of a sudden saw his grow succumb to frost, it's like, cut everything down and then just keep it frozen and make live resin out of it, because you've already started that process of all the cell walls because you freeze everything again.
What you say makes sense to me, Mark.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying exactly what you're saying makes sense to me.
I was wondering, maybe there's some sort of plant defense biochemical mechanism that if it gets close to freezing, the plant is stressed and creates some kind of plume of whatever in the plant to give it, this different flavor, different color, different. So
it definitely happens with animals, Mark. Depending on how you kill an animal, its flesh will taste very different.
I was telling somebody that. I was like, don't cut it while it's in shock. It'll taste bad.
Yeah, well, if you release adrenaline and you let the animal know that it's dying before it's dying,
what you do is you talk to each plant and say, it's okay, baby. We're going to really have a lot of fun. And then you whack it.
Well, actually, what I tell mine when I'm taking them down is that they're now going through the next step of the process to be in service to all the humans that are waiting for this medicine. I really do think they're sentient beings, man. And I know, Sam, you don't hold a lot of cotton to that, but I feel like every one of them's different, and they really respond. I don't know.
I used to take them individually when I would harvest them. I would take them into another room so the other plants wouldn't see. I've always kind of felt, once I saw that plants do have sensitivity and understanding, and they can see things killed around them and respond. I've kind of always felt that way, and I know people think I'm crazy, but it's just one of those things I've kind of always felt about the plant.
As a plant breeder, through selection, I can honestly say I've killed way more many plants than I've ever fully grown and harvested.
Murderer.
Oh, I had a teacher who used to say,
is a bitch.
Right, you don't learn until you kill your first 100,000.
Well, just wanted to jump in for a minute and say I'm really glad Mark brought up the point about harvesting a frozen plant quickly, and if there's a window between when it froze and maybe before it thaws out, because I've been processing a lot of live resin, so we're freezing what we get immediately after a harvest, and then it stays frozen until it's extracted.
You need to get a little bit closer to the mic.
Oh, apologies. I had the same question as Mark Scialdone there, and wanted to thank you for wondering if we could just harvest those plants before they thawed out, you know, and process them as live resin.
Absolutely. If either you harvest them before they freeze, or if you freeze them, let them stay frozen and process them while they're frozen. I think that is part of the solution.
Right on.
Yeah. Lots of people out there doing fresh frozen. There's a few people doing field frozen.
Forced field frozen hash.
That's it. Field frozen, bitches. All right. Look at Cubans just keeps going. What's he showing there? Oh, that's his picture now. Oh, no. He's still moving. He's still getting a tour. I guess we're still waiting for Keagan to come in.
Yeah, I better check.
Well, then we should have a bong rip right there, D.
Oh, shit. Yeah, mother lovers. Let's have a bong rip. Go. I woke up yesterday to a blizzard in my blanketed in snow, and I was just fucking sad. But it's gone now. It's just not sunny.
It was in Yellowstone. It was snowing practically until the last couple of days. So yeah, I feel you. It's, if you look at my pictures, you'll see there's snow on the trees and in the ground, on the ground, etc.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Winter's
I
here.
love the snow personally.
Hey, dry sifting time now.
Well, it really wasn't sticking too much on the ground. It just made a little slick on the roads, etc., etc. You know, I've went to college in West Virginia, so I learned how to drive in the snow, so it wasn't so bad. But, you know, yeah, unfortunately, my mom ran herself off the road in a Subaru and had to get pulled out. And
no,
on my way to see her, literally first thing, we go to the rental place to meet her, and then we get a call from her, ran off the road.
Oh, no.
So she just went just a couple of feet just into the snow just off the road, and they were able to, AAA was able to come out. She was in the Grand Tetons, so they were able to come in. She was just like a quarter mile past the, and pull her out. It just took a little time.
In the winter time here. Go ahead.
And it was snowing the whole time. So, and my mom's, I've never known her to drive in snow. Remember, she's from Louisiana, lives in Texas, so I had no idea necessarily how to give spacing. And yeah, it just happens, unfortunately. She was fine. Everything was good. But remember, people, when you're driving in the snow, give people a couple of car length space in between. So that snow is slick when you hit your brakes. My Canadian friends can agree.
Yep. It's a lot of fun. It can be a lot of fun in the snow if you're applying it properly. Parking lots empty with full snowfalls in them are fucking great.
Oh, going donuts.
Yep.
Yeah,
well, we'd the back of the bumpers and toboggans on the end of those 30 feet and just do laps and donuts until they fell off, right?
We did that.
Really hurt ourselves, though.
We did that in Louisiana with 3-wheelers and mud. We'd get like a 4x8 and get a ski rope and then just get pulled behind. Yeah, entertainment you need to do.
Car hood works good behind a vehicle in the snow too. Get a few people on there too. Lots.
Oh yeah, turn it right upside down there and get the slick side. Oh, I bet.
Oh, some handles on it even. Right on the front, so you can just give her. We had some fun up here in the younger days of the snowfalls, that's for sure.
I still take my truck off-road with my sled in the back, drive up the mountain, up a shady, wintry road into the back country, and then get the sled off and then go as far in as you can go before you're going to run out of gas on the way back.
You can literally just keep on going, eh, Mark? Through those mountains in the back of your place there?
Oh, yeah. You could, till you ran out of gas and you were, you know, screwed.
Get a helicopter drop for fuel and keep on going.
Oof. If I had a helicopter, I think I'd just be in it. I'd be like, you know what? Let's just leave the sled.
You don't need the snow.
I don't know if you'd leave the sled. I don't know, man. You love your sled.
You know, we could hang it. They do that sometimes. Fly with the sled hanging underneath so they can drop the sled first and then the people. There you go. There's your sled. It'd be nice to have the sled.
I had not heard of heli sledding before this.
No? It's a real thing.
Yeah.
It is a real thing.
Yeah, some of these guys are on it when they drop them.
Hey, Cuban, what are you going to do with those plants you got there?
You hashing them?
He's muted.
He's muted.
I suppose he's
Yeah. What up?
Love seeing those plants. Are you back?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I use hash for my own use, but we take care every 6 plants represents a patient in here, and we basically just provide them the medicine they need for the year, man, in whatever form they need.
nice.
Awesome.
Do it.
Fucking good.
I
job.
do the best I can. Check it out. I want to explain this to you guys. I live in this county, and you know Oregon's legal, everything. I live in this county that's as far east as possible, and they're close to a Republican state, so they opted out of the legalization and all the money from the state and things like that. So basically, all we can do in this county is we are allowed to grow our medical out of city limits. We can have more than 12 plants if we live out of city limits. So it's kind of a conundrum over here for people that need the stuff, you know. There's not any outlet.
So what is that, like 6 plants is 1 patient, and you said you can get 5 pounds off a plant?
It's possible.
30 pounds per patient. That's a good annual amount.
They do pretty well. They just they allowed us to they took us medical guys out of the equation pretty much with all the rec growing. Everything's through the liquor commission, but now they're allowing us small growers, or us small-handed medical guys, to get rid of a little bit of stuff on the legal market to at least cover our costs and things like that. So, at least they gave us a chance.
Yeah, true.
That's a start. Yeah.
Oregon's not too bad.
Yeah, it's a way better situation than Washington. They pretty much killed off medical, and there's no crossing.
Yep.
Boundary happening.
But
That's
dude,
what I've
just
heard.
go back like 15 years and nobody had nothing.
Nothing.
Oof.
Well, we did it anyway, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's so much nicer to have. You have to admit, like, for your family and for your loved ones, like, it's so much nicer to be able to grow cannabis and help people without the worry of having your door kicked down, your livelihood taken, your life stolen and jailed. Like,
Exactly.
I mean, we really should sort of give props more often as we're constantly criticizing. Of course, it's not perfect, but holy shit, we've come a long way.
Yeah, shout out to all the activists and organizers who made it happen, that pooled together the resources and got people involved. And thank you to everybody who's contributed and put their signature down there and then went out and voted, because it's a series of events that made these things happen. It wasn't just one thing. I mean, It was very helpful that, California lost. Then, Washington and Colorado were like, well, fuck them. We're going to do it. And then Oregon, fuck it, we can do it too.
Yeah, you got to give a shout out to those people, because the government doesn't give anything. You have to take from them. So give thanks to all the cannabis takers that took from the government and got us kind of to where we are today.
Oh, yeah, I give many thanks every day. I have a career thanks to the law change that happened in Washington. So I'm happy to be a part of the I-502 system. Nothing's perfect, but we keep moving forwards, and that's how we got to where we are today.
You started off with
the forms that they want as the survey they want to fill out in BC. Mark,
Pardon me?
Have you seen any of that? The form that they want of our opinion on?
Oh, I filled that out a long time ago, a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Remind people, maybe put the link up or something. I don't know.
I think it might be over. It might not be, but it's on.
November 1st is when it ends.
November 1st.
Till November.
Yeah, we got over 20,000 from BC. I knew that much.
Yeah, it basically is how do you want the situation to go, which is good.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. I did a couple of those now for the ACMPR as well. They had one of those.
So what is currently happening there in Canada? I mean, I hear of different cities are doing different things, either allowing or not allowing, or
Well, federally, there's going to be federal law, which right now we have a federal cannabis medical system in place called the ACMPR. And the ACMPR is both for patients and for companies. So I can get an ACMPR license and I can grow and use my own cannabis. These companies can get a special ACMPR, it's called an LP license, and then they can grow and distribute cannabis to patients. And so that's the thing that's in place right now for medical, and it's constantly like, oh, we need to get concentrates a bigger part of it because they only allow us a very diluted oil. They don't allow edibles in the legal, in the business aspect. If you have an ACMPR yourself, you can use all forms of extracts. You can do anything that you want with the plant. It's only these companies that are limited to being able to sell these products, which obviously puts a huge hindrance on the business of cannabis and cannabis medicine. If you can't sell like 90% of what the products are, then it creates the black market, or what I call the civil disobedience market, which is the market that got us into the place that we are right now. So you always got to give props to that. The dispensaries, Hillary starting the Compassion Club and all these others that followed, are civil disobedience. And they're there because the LPs aren't legally allowed to sell all of these great products, edibles and shatters and bubbles and all these things. And so it causes dispensaries to have to exist for patients. Otherwise, patients don't have access to it. Then there's recreational, which is supposed to be in by July of 2018. And that is mostly what you're talking about right now with provinces, because the federal cannabis is the same in every province. The provinces can figure out how they want to distribute it eventually, but right now it's MMAR or ACMPR is all the same. And MMAR is the one that preceded the ACMPR. It was prior, it was before, and I'm a part of the MMAR. That was the one that we did the lawsuit, and we went against our government and said, no, like this is all breaking the Charter of Rights you can't have it be like this. And we won. Thanks to Kirk Dussault and John Conroy and Jason Wilcox and Johnny B and Ramo and all these people that were a big part of the coalition. They made it so we could continue to grow. And so with recreation coming in, it's the 4-plant thing. Each province is going to figure out how they want to do it. Ontario came out and said they wanted to open 150 stores or something over the course of the next 5 years, and everyone lost their shit. No matter how it happens, everyone's going to continue to lose their shit. I can't imagine them ever doing it the way we actually want, but I do see it going slowly but surely, like us just chiseling away at the parts we don't want until it gets to be, you know, something that we can stand behind.
What you're doing with these surveys that you and D are talking about, are those sent out to you by the government, or are these sent out by region?
You can go online and fill them out. They're on the Health Canada website. I don't know the link, but if D knows it, he can put it up in the Hash Church group in Facebook. I filled out a couple.
What you've presented, because it sounds like you've helped. It's shaped not perfectly, but you'll have been able to, you know, manipulate the shaping of how things are to an extent, not fully, but to an extent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at least everyone can have their voice, and it's in every province. So that's going to be like, I'm sure it'll be like 100,000 plus, or maybe 200,000 people might end up offering good opinions. So hopefully they have the people that can go through and listen to those opinions and actually, you know, you'd hope that they would use some of those opinions, particularly ones that reoccur over and over and over again.
But you have legal mail order cannabis, correct? Such as Tilray, and that's the federal.
Only cannabis and a very diluted kind of olive oil.
And how long does it take? Such as if I place an order for that now, how long would that take?
You can have it the next day. Oh yeah.
Wow.
My friend was tripping on it when it first happened. He's like, dude, he was ordering from Tilray, and he was like, and he was in Toronto. He was like, dude, you know how crazy this is? At like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I can order herb and I get it before like noon the next day, and I'm in Toronto, like 3 hours ahead. I'm just like, that's pretty crazy for sure. Mail order. Hey, welcome, Forrest.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, Forrest.
Good morning.
Oh, Forrest, how you doing, buddy?
You're deep in it. You got evacuated, but you got let back.
That's right. Yeah. So apologize. I'm behind. So I was up late last night and just getting going this morning. But yeah, it's been crazy here.
Man, I'll tell you, we talked a little bit about it, and we're hopefully going to, give out the right links for people where they can donate their time or clothes or money or whatever it is they have that they want to be able to share with a lot of these people that lost everything.
Yeah, I really, I was on, Subcool asked me to join them last night, and I don't do a lot of talking on there, but it's good to just show some support after what they've been through. And I know that they've got some things set up with guys down there on the field helping farmers, which is great. And I can look up some of those links. And I know that California Growers Association is doing the same thing as far as raising specifically for farmers and helping them. And we can definitely provide some of those links before we go today. But it's been crazy. It was crazy. We were evacuated at 4 a.m. on Monday, and you just kind of don't believe it when it happens. Like, I'm sure we're fine, and
dude, it happened so fast.
Yeah, it happens quick. Those winds, it was the winds,
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about the fire, but what really caused the emergency was there was wind like I had never experienced.
Like 50 miles an hour, I heard.
Yeah, it was insane. It was insane. So it wasn't just that the fire started, likely because of, dropped down power lines, but then they spread quick and were moving fast. So
huge.
Yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, I went out in my driveway and looked down the road, and there's the fire. It's coming. So it's hard. It ended our I look back on it, and these things are minor. We got to come home a few days later. Excuse me. We got to keep our house. It just felt really fortunate. But yeah, it was a challenge. It ended Silas's 38-day seizure-free streak, which kind of sucked. The stress of the whole thing. He started season just that afternoon, which, it's just medically fragile kids don't do well to adventure and excitement and change. But, we come back and we look back at the farmers that we know just in our area that lost their farms. And for me, it just really puts me on another soapbox, which I didn't want to come in here and jump on and take over the conversation. But it's just another, there's an injustice there that's not being talked about that really bothers me, which is these farmers are not allowed to prepare for events like this. They're not allowed to get the right insurance. They're not allowed to insure the crops that they're producing. They're not allowed to bank. So a lot of them have ridiculous amounts of cash on hand. And when fires like this sweep through, you devastate those families. A lot of them, they lose the cash they have on hand because there's no time to save anything when the fire's coming at 50 or 60 miles an hour. They lose their entire farm, and they're living season to season. And, it's hard to watch these people really lose everything, be demonized throughout the year. And I know they're doing amazing work because some of them are amazing people who contribute to helping save kids' lives through our organization. And then they have to lose everything, and no one really cares because they're just, pot growers. And it just, we have a lot of growing up to do in this country, and my heart breaks for all those families. So really, really glad someone's trying to target those families specifically, but I think there's a lot more we need to do, because it's not just that they lose this year's crop. It's that they're not allowed to prepare in any way like a normal, responsible adult would if they were treated with respect and dignity. So my heart goes out to all those people who are going through that right now, and I will definitely be doing anything I can to not only help them get through this, but like I like to do, show it to the people in the people's faces how they put them in this horrible position for no real justifiable reason. And it compounds the problem and makes it even worse. So yeah, it's a heartbreaker.
Well, not only that, how many people have invested in their farms to get ready to play in the legal field?
Right.
A lot of people lost their reality to play in the reality because, as you said, it's either Bank of the Earth or, because there are no banks. We can't go to banks. We've been treated absolutely absurdly for the good that we have done for generations now. And for people to be forced to suffer through that is absolutely, abhorrible, to say the least.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I forgot to mention that. That's why so many of them have nothing at this point, because they've invested everything they've saved in preparing for this legal market. And in Nevada County, where I spend a lot of time, it's even worse because, you know, they've been strung along for so many years now. The ordinances have changed, so they've invested thousands of dollars in greenhouses that they are no longer really appropriate or not legal through the ordinance. So they've just been strung along. They've spent all this money trying to do the right thing, and then they lose everything in a fire, and it's just, heart goes out to them. So I hope everybody who
here, Forrest, sorry to interrupt. It's Wade. Here in Nevada County, we've had 3 different sets of laws about cannabis cultivation in the last 5 years, all with different specific requirements about if you want to have a garden, it's got to be this or that and that. And all kinds of people have put money into trying to comply with the law. And yeah, more than a few, like Forrest just said, lost everything that they put into it.
Just on a real selfish personal note here, I wanted to jump in before we shifted gears away from the topic of the fire. After I parted ways with Uptech, I found work last fall down in Northern California as a trim agent, harvester, and hasher. And I got to work for a guy who's a manager at Compassionate Heart there in Ukiah, Chad Emery, who had a 25 plant grow at his property. And he let me live there for 2 months while I worked for him and made me part of his family. He loaned me his STI so I could take a rip up to Humboldt and meet up with the dry sift Jedi and learn how to make dry sift hash. Super generous guy, one of the most that I've had the opportunity to work with in the cannabis industry. And the fire came in fast at his property and he lost everything. His house burned to the ground, his plot burned to the ground. His STI that he lent me was roasted in his driveway. And he's reached out for some help and he's gotten it. I wanted to give a lot of thanks to the Soil King, who seems to be linking up a lot of people in the area and has helped Chad get into an apartment, and people have donated him furniture and clothing. And just wanted to say thank you for that. Those helping down there and making a huge difference to those who need it.
Yeah, I talked to the Soil King, was on the show last night, and what he's doing is incredible. So hook up with him, those who can. I'll see if I can look up the links, but he said he's got enough clothes. He's got rooms full of clothes, but it's really too, for the people who are watching, it's and from being someone who's needed help from time to time due to circumstances outside of my control, there's always a rush in the first week, right? And everyone says, hey, can I help? And sometimes so many people are asking that at the time, the people are in shock. Like, no, I don't know. I think we got what we need, or right now we're okay. But really, if you really want to help, it's remembering to ask in 2 weeks, and again in 4 weeks, and again in 6 weeks, and really try to combat this attention span issue we seem to have in 2017, where we're just on to the next emergency. Or here in the States, like Trump will pick his butt on camera and everyone will talk about that for 2 months. And, we got to just look out for those distracting things and really remember to continue to check in with these people, because when you lose everything like that, yeah, you might be okay today because you've got a pile of new clothes or donated clothes and you have an ice chest that's full. So like, yeah, I think, okay, I'm all right. And I'm in shock and I don't really know what I could ask for, but it's the long-term follow through. So for anyone listening out there, or Marcus, if you'd want to, I think if we really want to help again, because right now there's this flood and we need to continue helping, but in another 6 weeks, we could do a lot of good by coming back and just saying we haven't forgotten, and seeing what we could do for those folks, and raise some money or donations once they have time to breathe and look around and say, okay, what could we really use?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea, as always, Forrest. I'll support that. And hey, did you want to introduce your friend that just got into the room there?
Yeah, I want to welcome Keagan O'Neill to Hash Church for the first episode. Hey, Keagan.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
502 processor in Washington. And as I understand it, you've got quite a family background in CO2 processing. We're here to learn from you today, man.
Yeah. So can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so about 5 years ago, my uncle had gotten one of the first CO2 built by Apex and Eden Labs. Pardon me. And he started doing a lot of processing for edibles down in California. And he had a big natural medicine background. And once I had turned 21, he said, come down, I'll give you some experience on my machine, because I really wanted to grow. I was like, oh, growing's my passion. I'd been watching videos from Bubble Man and John B, and really learned a lot from you guys, and basically just was all gung-ho about growing. And he's like, well, I'll try to get you in on like a grow or something like that, but if you give me 2 years of your time, we'll see what you think about extract. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So 2 years went by, and I fell in love with it. It was awesome. And then he ended up wanting to move back down to California. He had moved up to Washington to do processing in Washington. And I didn't want to move back down to California with him. So I moved back up to Bellingham and met up with Cascadia Gardens. I actually met them for a growing position, because I figured no one up around here would have any kind of CO2 extractor or anything like that. And turns out they bring me in for an interview, and they're like, tell us about your experience. And I was like, oh, well, I've been doing CO2 processing for the last 2 years. And they were like, whoa, well, we just bought this CO2 machine and we don't know how to run it. And I was like, whoa, cool, I'm your guy. So I started doing a bunch of R&D on it, because I was really only allowed to make CO2 in the raw on my uncle's machine for the edibles and for dabbing. But I knew that there was a lot more that could be done with it. So I started messing around, and I was able to do a complete terpene isolation. I've been able to do CO2 shatters, crumbles, all kinds of stuff. But what's really cool, what I'm really proud of, are those terpenes. I actually just got those back, the analytical results back from Confidence, and down here in Washington, they're an analytical laboratory. And they came back anywhere from, I think, 65 to 95% detectable terpenes from, I think, around the 45 they can test for. Maybe they can test for up to 60 now. But it was pretty fun to see that. And they're all below 0.7% THC.
Interesting.
Are you running critically?
Yes.
You are running
super critically.
So
super
what temperature are you running at, if you're allowed to set?
Well, it is definitely colder than I would have anticipated. So it's definitely around like 70 degrees Fahrenheit, I would say, is at least what the chiller output is reading. So the inside of the machine, I would imagine, is around 65 to 70 degrees as well, the material column.
Are you grinding your material?
Oh, hang on, guys. I got my headphones hooked up to my phone and the laptop, so as soon as something goes off on the phone, laptop cuts out. Sorry about that, guys.
I assume you're grinding your material?
Yeah, so I have to grind the material and completely pulverize it, which is completely unlike what I would do for propane or butane hash oil. But basically, allowing all of that surface area to be present on the material allows the CO2 to do a better job extracting all of the essential oils, and also prevents the CO2 from channeling in the column. Because a lot of times when that initial burst of CO2 happens, if you don't have a proper pack, or you don't have like a uniform material size, or a particle size, I should say, you can get chilling, and then that'll really decrease your yield.
Yeah, Indra's talked about that channeling in BHO extraction, and why he doesn't understand why so many people are using columns. He uses like a weird kind of...
well, I think it's exacerbated under high pressure, because everything's packed into like a big puff, right?
Too. Yeah.
So it's going to find a path of resistance.
And doesn't grinding
path of least resistance.
And doesn't grinding the raw material cause terpene loss just doing that?
Well, if you're I mean, as soon as you cut the plant down, you're experiencing terpene loss, right?
No, I understand, but when you started, you said you had that you got all the terpenes, or you had no terpene loss. I forget exactly what you said.
Oh no, terpene extraction.
And so, are you getting all the terpenes that are in a fresh plant?
I'm able to get from around a 10-pound batch. I'm able to pull anywhere from 80 to 100 milliliters.
Do you take recovered material and do like an ethanol extraction and shoot it into GC to make sure you've gotten all your cannabinoid?
Absolutely. So that's actually one of the funnest things I've just come out with on the market here in Washington. I call it high terpene full spectrum absolute. So I do a couple processes in the CO2 machine where I remove all the lower molecular weight constituents of the plant. And then I run the material in cold critical ethanol, making, and then I filter it with silica and a couple other medias. And I end up with around a 90 to 92% overall cannabinoid extraction, or extract, I should say. And then I re-add its native terpenes back into it at around a percentage of 7 to 9%.
Okay, but you answered my question. Basically, the CO2 extraction is not grabbing everything.
No, CO2 never does unless you're using PSI of upwards of over 4,000, I would say.
Right. So what?
And then that's a ton of fat as well.
What percentage of cannabinoids are you removing in your first pass CO2 extraction?
So I'm able to pull an extract that has around 75% THC percentage, and then if I were to turn around and run the already ran material that I ran for CO2 in ethanol, I would be lucky to get maybe a 1 to 2% return.
Is that by weight? 1 to 2% of the total weight?
Correct. Yes. But instead of running it for CO2 and pulling the cannabinoids with CO2, I just remove all the lower, well, not for all the products, but for the high terpene absolute in particular, all those lower molecular weight product or components are completely removed. And then the cannabinoids are left for the extraction of the cold critical ethanol.
So you're able to fractionate out a wax-free, lipid-free fraction by doing differential letdown of pressure to where you're getting an enriched cannabinoid fraction?
Yes, basically.
Is that THCA or is it THC?
THCA. Yeah, it's around 89% THCA, 88% THCA.
Right. So you could prepare THCA this way.
Yeah, that's actually, so the cool thing too is everybody's doing these high terpene extracts, and I really wanted to do my own rendition because I really originated dabbing hydrocarbons, and I really am trying to steer away from them. And what I thought was really cool is with CO2 and ethanol, I could create the same kind of product. And I was talking to Sam, and it was crazy. The THCA crystals still formed the same when you do the waiting period for the hydrocarbon high terpene extract as it did for the reintroduction of the terpenes to the absolute.
So you're still seeing crystallization after you add your terpenes back into your CO2 oil?
Yeah, so after about like a week or two, there'll be a layer between like the cannabinoid section and the terpene section, and there'll be just these layer of crystals. I can only imagine from what you and I were talking, I haven't got them tested yet, but from what you and I were talking about, I can only imagine that would be potentially THCA.
Yeah, so they're separated. So I've heard a lot of people who are growing, terpene or growing crystals in terpenes.
It was really
what's happening.
My naturopathic friend was just telling me the other day. He actually does a lot of extracting as well. He's moving down to Oregon to do industrial hemp processing for CBD. But he was telling me like a year ago, we're going to find out here pretty soon that terpenes are the best solvent for extracting THCA. And now I'm like seeing this, and I believe him. If only we could extract enough and then be able to recover them to the same degree. But yeah, I mean, I guess we can, but it's still not quite the same.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's been quite.
I'll jump in. What kind of products are you guys making?
Oh, I do the, actually, I got some right here. These are really cool. I do the terpenes, CO2 in the raw, and vape pen cartridge, as well as the high terpene full spectrum absolute, which is kind of like a crumble kind of sugar wax, I guess I'd say. But here is, I'm not sure if you guys can see that. That is some Gorilla Glue terpenes.
Quite yellow, eh?
How many different?
Yeah, so those are the flavonoids, is what I've been told.
How many different terpenes do you actually find in that? Have you measured it with a GCFID?
Well, and so that's the hardest thing is a lot of the analytical laboratories down here as of recently could only test for, about a year ago it was 26. Now I think it's 40 terpenes. And these have, I would say, over 200 chemical constituents that make up that profile. With terpenes, flavonoids, cannaflavins, and the whole kind of plethora of what the soul of the cannabis
is this for smoked material or is it for oral?
It can be for both. I re-added into Absolute for flavor, and we have people putting it on ice cream. I like to put it in my water bottle. I put 1 drop in a 32-ounce Nalgene. Yeah, putting it on all kinds of food and pretty much everything. We've been making some kind of topicals out of it, but it's just so expensive to make topicals out of that stuff because it requires so much for it to even kind of keep the potency, even if you're using some kind of binder. But they're beautiful.
It can be expensive,
I'm
but it
just
adds
curious what all the terpenes that are in it actually are.
Right.
Well, you have to test it, Sam. It would have to be tested for all the terpenes for you to find that out. And he said, that it's they're not testing for as many as maybe SC Labs is down in California.
Yeah, do you guys know how many they test for?
I think
I haven't heard anybody testing for more than 50, except for we did 20 years ago. We had about 100, but there's 150. So even we were only testing for 2/3, but we tested for all the more common ones. So the ones we weren't testing for were rarely found and in tiny, tiny, tiny amounts.
I was going to say, we probably have, or what do you guys think, that we have the majority of the main players in the terpene world are being tested for, and the ones we're missing are rather minute, or do you think there's some still real pharmacological effect-wise players that we're missing?
Sam, can you hear me?
Which Sam are you talking to?
You, goddammit, obviously.
No, there's 2 Sams in the room.
All right, well, anyway, Puppet Sam, I'm going to address this comment to you. Myself, John Mark Herring, and the people at Scientific 710, Clancy, we have obtaining from Japan a heat pump that uses helium that will allow us to reach temperatures of -140. Of course, we're not going to shoot for the -140, and it's a Stirling engine. And what we're going to do with it is shoot for somewhere around what the current temperatures are, and -80 or -100, to see if we can't glean some of those other terpenes that have been missing up till now.
We find over 50 terpenes in the average sample we analyzed, and we only had 100 terpenes. If we would have had 150, all of the terpenes that have been ID'd in cannabis so far, who knows, we might have found 60 or 70. I really can't say.
Well, do you think it's because of the temperatures or because some of the plants just aren't growing all the terpenes? I'm sort of siding with the fact that we haven't got cold enough yet to condense some of them that are very low.
It may also be that some of these terpenes are more found in early growing and young juvenile plants rather than really, really adult plants. I mean, I myself always like to grow my plants until their resin is really fully finished adding on. And the smell definitely changes. So I assume maybe some of the really, really, really volatile ones are being lost, but I don't have any proof of this. I just assume it.
Well, I extracted a couple of brand new fresh plants that I chopped down this year. I cut them down, and 10 minutes later, I put them in the extractor and extracted them. And the flavor and the taste from them is pretty much off the charts. It's one hit. It's truly one hit stuff. I can take one hit off, but it tastes like a fresh flower. I mean, it's like a brand new fresh flower right away, and it's beautiful stuff. And I'm thinking that concentrates probably are going to head in this direction.
By the way, John, I patented, excuse me, I copyrighted the term fresh flower.
Hey, Indra,
Okay,
talk
so
away from your mic a little bit. You're blowing up the speakers. You're too close to the mic. You need to be back.
All right, how about that?
I think it's probably
Is that any better?
I think so. I'll see what the audience says here. I think we're good.
All right. Well, anyway, I'll send you 25 cents, Sam.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mike is inside his. Sorry, Mr. Hideous had the funniest comment. He's like, the mic is inside his mouth. You were coming through loud and clear. Let me tell you, blowing up my speakers.
Well, I got a new microphone, and I didn't know that how it worked on other systems.
Wow. I'm letting you right now know it works exceptionally. You definitely don't have to be so close to it, but that was awesome. Glad to have you. We had, we had Keagan telling us a little bit about his CO2 extraction earlier. He's been, I don't know, were you going to like throw something in the column and run a batch, or is that just like not going to happen today?
It takes 20 hours to do a run.
Jesus.
Yeah.
What a pain in the ass. That system takes 2 hours to do a run.
And Keagan, what's faster, a terpene run or a cannabinoid run, or are you doing them simultaneously? What's the story?
Well, so if I'm going to be doing pens, I'll do them simultaneously. But if I'm going to be doing HTFSA, I'll just do the terpene run, and then I use a shop vac, and all that stuff gets sucked out and then ran through cold critical ethanol. And the cold critical ethanol takes no time. The only bottleneck there is just the evaporation of solvent.
So what part of the process, like why does it take 20 hours? Where is that time spent during the run?
It's 2 hours per pound.
Just in the soak time in contact with
Processing
CO2?
time. Just in the process, yeah, just in the processing time.
And that's stalled out, you're not flowing.
It's flowing the whole time. Yeah, it's continuous flow. Yeah, it's continuous flow for 20 hours.
You're flowing it through that thing at how much per hour continuously?
I'm sorry, what's that?
How much per hour are you flowing through the column continuously for 20 hours?
I am not sure the actual CO2 flow rate on that.
Well, what pressure are you putting it through there?
Anywhere from 17 to 1800 PSI.
And it takes 20 hours.
20 hours.
Man, that's crazy. My runs take like 38 to 42 minutes. It just
yeah, right.
Time.
Well, and that's because if
how much material is that?
That's it.
10
pounds. But yeah, so the reason is because, all right, you see that giant green thing right there? Right in the back corner, right here. That is a giant diaphragm compressor. Can't exceed too high of a PSI, but it allows me to keep everything super cold so that those terpenes don't exceed a temperature of realistically, after the CO2 crosses them, they don't get hotter than 30 degrees Fahrenheit.
30 degrees Fahrenheit. That'll bubble up your bubble if you leave it out in the sun in not Fahrenheit, sorry, Celsius.
Celsius, yeah.
That'll bubble up your bubble. I left bubble drying in Jamaica, out in the. It was in the shade at the time on some cardboard, but I guess the sun came out, and when I went out to grab it, it was like bubbling. I was like, yeah.
No, that's not what's
Still had a lot of terpenes. I'm always surprised at how the hottest places.
Come on, tell the truth, Marcus. It was the butane.
It was the butane. Yeah.
So Keagan, the next time you're in Northern California, you should stop around. I think I can kill a lot of time out of your very lengthy process that you're doing and make things go a lot easier for you.
For the CO2 or for the ethanol?
Whatever it is you're doing, 20-hour process for the CO2. I'm sure I can help you improve on all that.
Okay, cool. Right on. And you are, hang on, Indra?
Yep.
Nice to meet you, Indra. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, pleasure to meet you. I listened to what you had to say this morning, and I thought you could use a hand on some information that your other friend who taught you how to run this maybe didn't have to give you at the time. And so
I would love that. That would be awesome.
It's always good to learn more information. That's why the conversation, you know, it's funny, no matter what we talk about in here, whether it's BHO or CO2 or bubble hash or dry sift, there's always someone in the chat, oh, that's bunk. No, this the only thing you need to do is this. This is what everyone needs to do, what I like. And it's just like I've gotten to a point now where I really appreciate all the different extraction methods and all the different ways to acquire these unique components that clearly, you know, are beyond medicinal for us. I would say, I would go as far as saying that they are a dietary need for humans. So why wouldn't we come up with as many cool ways to get them off the plant and get them into our bodies?
There's no such thing as all right and all wrong. There's benefits and advantages and disadvantages to each one.
That's for sure. I agree.
Bringing more options, more methods.
Yes,
I think
Indra.
is a positive.
Farce, I'm going to send you by courier Monday morning a pint of this very pure, very delicious CBD oil that always leaves me with a feeling of well-being. And I don't know how much you guys go through, but I hope a pint is helpful. I can come up with a pint a month for you.
Well, pint is, of course, absolutely helpful. That's amazing. Thank you. I saw the message on Instagram. I'm just not on much, and even if some people see posts once in a while, but it's more just, as I'm sure you guys know, to try to keep the presence going and awareness for our projects. But I hope you got my response, and I was going to be willing to even drive up and say hello, but that would be incredible. And I can't.
Come on, Indra, only one pint?
Yeah, only a pint.
Yeah.
No, we could help lots and lots of people with that. That goes a long way. So thank you.
The thing of it is, the guy who's supplying me with the raw CBD oil that I have to winterize before I send it to you has also agreed to lend a hand and give me a certain number of kilos every month to aid the kids. So you're gonna be getting 2 or 3 times as much as that, because my friend was very touched by the kids and so forth, and he wants to help too.
That's better. That's better.
I can't. Yeah. Well, in that case, thanks, I guess. No, I can't thank you enough. That's incredible. And back to the fires a little bit. That's a big concern of mine. And right now, it's something that I don't really feel right talking about my concerns with so many people losing things. But we just had a huge uptick in families that have come forward because of some online attention. We had a couple posts go viral. Let me see if I can share this with you guys. So some of our kids are really coming forward, some of our families, right? So this is a little guy, Reed. And these things, is that picture coming through? You guys see that?
Yes.
So
yes,
these are moving forward, which is great. But what happens is, we get a large intake in families who are looking for help. This is a little boy with epidermolysis bullosa. And when that happens, we get a huge intake, and we lost a lot, some of our partners in these fires. And I just really want to make sure we can make commitments and help as many families as we can. So, I don't want to get all touchy and emotional on us now, but Indra, not only is that thank you, but I really can't thank you enough for anybody who wants to step up, because more now than ever, some of our commitments that we've made to families on projected donations is kind of up in the air, and nothing scares me more than having to call a family back and tell them that we were wrong and we can't help them. So,
well,
thank you very much.
I don't know if you're interested. I could also give you some THC oil too, because we end up with a lot of it over a period of time, and I don't really do anything with it. I can only smoke so many dabs at a time. So if you want some THC oil to mix with it as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's DHA, by the way.
That makes it even more valuable for me, because it's really hard for us in our old-fashioned methods to get really good quality.
He's picking up for my dogs. He's like, "Oh, Pops, I love you."
Yeah, well, our process makes the THCA oil, and you have to heat it in order to get it to become THCA. Our process is completely cold, so it'll be alive as well.
Wonderful. Well, like I said,
That's
we're
really
gonna
nice,
visit
Indra.
too,
Thank you
but-
so much.
Yeah, we're gonna come visit, but yeah, little courier.
Well, I'm gonna
be amazing as well.
I'm gonna send it to you right away.
Oh, good. I know what it is.
I'll save you guys a drive. You don't have to come here. I don't have anything at the house. I don't do anything at the house. We do it all elsewhere. So you wouldn't get to see anything except my ugly old face.
Well, thank you so
That
much,
was just
Indra. I
one.
can't tell you how much I appreciate your persistence with getting that to us.
This guy here, Link.
So,
Welcome.
Well,
Sub.
I'm nothing if not persistent.
You are persistent. I've been trying to welcome Sub like 3 times in a row. I'm like, welcome Sub. Hello, Sub Cool.
Hello, Sub. Cool.
Welcome, Sub. Hello, Sub.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Dude, how are you doing?
Surprisingly awesome.
I see you got your new hat.
Yeah, yeah, definitely celebrating the course of the nation, and we raised last night. Me and the guy sitting over there, Dago, we raised $30,000 over a couple of day period for the victims of the NorCal fire.
We raised 15.
The 15, yeah, we raised 15. Another group 15. Another group 15. So total, the Weed Nerd Nation Roundtable, FADA Mike group, they raised $45,000 for people in NorCal. It's going straight to Pat Soil King, and it'll be given out. No GoFundMe, no 30%. Buy dog food, buy horse food, buy generators, buy diapers, if you live where I live, you can drive to Soil King and you can say, hey, I'm fucked. I need a refrigerator. And he'll take you to Walmart and buy you a refrigerator.
You know what? It's nice to hear you say that, because the other day on my Wake and Bake, people were like, oh, what's the links? Can you put up the GoFundMe links? And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to talk to Sub. I'm going to make sure all the links I share is the proper place that you need to be donating to. And man, I got people like, why would you say that? You know, you're keeping people from donating. I'm like, because I want them to donate where it should go. That's why. So we're going to definitely want to put up all the links.
Yeah. What's funny that you say that, Mark, because it leads me right into a segue. So this kind of started with people right away raising money for me and Jill, because we lost everything, like for real. But that's fine. I mean, I have bank accounts, I have a business, I'm good. And so immediately I turned it into any money raised for me or my organization is going to be donated to the victims of the fire. And then Patrick got involved on the ground, so we don't have to go through the Red Cross or anything like that. So absolutely the links that we're working on through the stream nerds and everything, those checks, the only way they work is if, like, you buy a pack of seeds from us on the auction or a poster, you have to give the money to Pat, and Pat shows us the receipt, and then when the receipt's shown to us, we send you the prize. And I was with Pat driving around buying dog food, goat food, and generators. So, and if you, I'm going to shut up after this and smoke a bowl with you guys. If you'll go look at my Instagram, you will see what we're talking about. 1,800 homes in one neighborhood. The place is on fire. There's no food. This is not like anything you've ever seen before in your life. I don't have a place to live, and I have money. I mean, there's no fucking hotel. The Hilton burned down. The Fountain Grove burned down. The smoke is so bad, if you go back to the area, you choke to death. And I have to have an infusion tomorrow, and we're going to do it in a parking lot so I don't have to do the smoke. So this is Armageddon. Like, I don't know if you see the news that we see, but everyone lost their home. My nurse lost their home. My friends lost their home, and we don't have anywhere to go. So if you guys can help or shed light on the plight of people out there, please do so.
Well, Sub, you definitely got places to go here in Eastern California. It's about an hour drive from you, but if you need to kill some weeks out here, we definitely have some places for you. So do not hesitate to ask, and come do a little vacation up here at the lake, and as you get things put back together.
Hey, Sub, I got a spare bedroom.
True that, Sub Cool.
You have to understand, though, I've got a Chihuahua and a very mouthy parrot that lives in but you're welcome here, because there's 45 acres and there ain't nobody bothering us, and we got a good internet connection, and a little messy, but you're welcome.
Well, as it turns
But you
out,
have to look at Indra.
Yeah, you have to look at Indra. Well, as it turns out, again, I'm a survivor. I'm fine. Once they let me, I'm going to go off a little bit. So once they let me go to my house, and we can talk about that. So My lawyer says enough. He says, we're going to meet at the police line on Monday or Tuesday, and he's going to be with me. We'll go to my house. And the fire's out. The area's done. And in my opinion, the cops are being just a little overbearing. And I understand they need to protect people and everything. But it's my fucking house. It's $1 million home that burnt to the fucking ground. I need to go up there and see what it looks like. It's 9 days. Having said that, when I'm done, I'm going to Arizona, and I just signed, we're working on signing a contract on a new 400 light building to grow Jesus OG Kush in Arizona. So I'll be cranking that up next week. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not even slowing down. I don't have a home, so I'll just go from here to there, and grow lots of ganja and continue to overgrow the government.
So what's going to happen in regards to like insurance for all of these people that lost these homes? Because you got to think a ton of people, some people must be insured for their house burning down, or do people just
if you got a home loan, that's a great topic, Mark. If you have a home loan, you have fire insurance. You can't. The fucking bank don't give you hundreds of thousands of dollars without fire. So unless your dad gave you the house or you built the house, you got fire insurance. I got fire insurance. So, but I'm gonna be real hardcore and tell you what fire insurance means. So the very first step is they gave me $4,000 a month to live. So that's why I told you I won't take charity money. I'm not broke. I just don't have a house. So now I have allotment for food and replacing my blanket. I don't have a blanket. I don't have a pillow. So get that shit. Eat. So then the first thing you do is you write all the contents down of your home, and it's gut wrenching. And my suggestion, if you have to go through this, is not write down the bracelet, because that has no money value. You need to write down 5 refrigerators, 6 TVs. You have to hit the maximum allow they'll pay out for property. They will tell you what it is. Whether it's $25,000 or $30,000, whatever it is, you got to hit that. Once you hit that, they cut you a check. You don't really need to say, oh, I got my kid's first baby picture, because that's heart wrenching. And I wish they'd tell you this shit. And then they will establish the value of a home. In my case, they say my home's worth about $600,000. You can't build it for that where I live, because there won't be enough 2x4s, builders, cement, or anything. And so you take your cash out. Now, I have a loan on my home remaining, so it's around $300. So if you take the $300 from the $600, you have $300,000 left over, and you can't live in a home for that. So you still have to take another damn loan out when your house burns down. So that's the logistics of your house burning down. And worse, you have to go to the rubble. Like, I don't just get to fuck off and not deal with it. I would love to just move on, but I have to go deal with the fact that I own 3 acres of rubble, but cannabis land, and I don't have any fucking neighbors anymore, so I won't be selling it.
Well, it's also crazy that it's not just like you're dealing with your house burning down. You're dealing with your house burning down while everyone around you is dealing with their house burning down, which really changes the whole vibe. What's that?
The guy that gives me my infusion, his house burned down. Jesus. So my nurse and the medicine burned down. So
Jesus. Yeah, it's just
Coke's
crazy.
Fine. Coke's good. Coke made it. He has
I'll
PTSD.
have a puff with you. I'm gonna have a puff with you, Sub.
Thank you, brother.
Puff a little bowl. Can't believe it. I knew you were getting blown out, but I obviously sent you a message right away saying, dude, when I can offer help, let me know. It's good to.
And for those of you that do want to help me or anybody else, we have a simple saying: wait 2 weeks and ask us what the fuck we need, because we ain't got a clue right now. We don't.
That's what Forrest just mentioned. Makes good sense.
So my dog has PTSD, if you can't tell. You notice the Toke is 3 inches from me. This is where he stays at all times. I think the fire freaked him out. I don't think he's down with fire.
Oh, it had to have. Must have freaked so many animals out.
Well, there's 45 acres here for him to run on.
We'll have to come see you, buddy. Actually, no joking aside, and y'all can get mad at me if you want to. As soon as I looked at my house, fuck this place. I'm out of the fire. I'm tired of fire. I don't like fire, and I'm not ever going to live where you can burn to death again. I can assure you that.
Yeah.
Well, as I was saying, just with the impact on Silas when we left, he started seizing that afternoon. He hasn't had a seizure in 38 days, and they're just now stopping yesterday. I mean, there is something that really is terrifying about driving through fire at 4 a.m, and the fear that it brings. Fire is no joke. And Subcool, just experience it. But those of you who haven't, when it's on the side of the road and you feel that heat, there's nothing. It's not like the fire in your fireplace. When it's 1,000 acres of heat, it is an amazingly terrifying experience.
Yep. Well, it's crazy because we get this every year here in British Columbia. And in fact, this year was very, very bad for BC. I want to say it was Fort Nelson. I could be wrong, but there was an entire town wiped out as well here in BC just a couple of months ago. Ridiculous amount. I think it might have been like 1 million acres or something that got burned. It was very bad. You'd have to do the Google. I don't know all the
Fires
if you don't,
in California forests for millions of years. It's a part of the natural.
Yeah, but no, Indra, you're not passing that shit through here. This is the worst fucking urban fire in history.
If you
it
look
burned
at
more
sequoias,
houses in any time. It's not trees. Fuck trees. It burnt people's houses down. It burnt 1,800 houses down in one neighborhood. That has not happened before. 1,800 homes in one fucking subdivision.
That's Sam, not Indra.
I apologize. I'm fired up.
No, it's no problem. But when you look at the sequoias and things like this that have been there for 1,000 years, they're scarred from fires every 100, 200 years.
This is different. This is lack of, in my opinion, and I'm getting in trouble for this. This is lack of money to handle things. I saw 500 cops before I saw a single fire truck. Now, I'm not taking away from the guys on the line fighting the fire. I love them. Please, God, the firemen are the baddest dudes in the world. But where I live, no fire trucks came. If a fire truck would have driven down my street and sprayed water on my house, it wouldn't have burned down. 7 neighborhoods went down in my house, 1,800 in the next neighborhood. The infrastructure of California is fucked, and that's the story, in my opinion, that's not really being told.
The other part of the story that isn't being told is the PG&E lines are one of the major contributors to why these fires started in the first place. And the crazy thing is PG&E is the first one out there repairing those destroyed fire lines and distribution points. So it's I don't know where we're going to find out the actual truth of where some of these fires actually started, but from what I've been told is faulty lines.
Usually what causes the fire traditionally has been lots of rains, lots of green growth, dries out the end of summer, it freaking burns.
Yeah. And Sam, I wanted to say Sam, let me say, I really apologize. I apologize for snapping at you. Indra and me have a much different relationship, so I do apologize. What I was going to say,
problem at all.
Thanks, Sam. This is the truth, and I was there. Okay, and you can ask anybody there. People are talking about God and laser beams and the government and Trump. No, the wind was blowing 75 miles an hour. The power line, whatever. The wind was blowing 75 miles an hour, and that's why my house burned down. If the wind wasn't blowing 75 miles an hour, the fire would have burned like it did 2 years ago. And we looked over there and we said, oh shit, there's a fire. Maybe we need to evacuate. It burned my house down in 2 minutes, and then it moved 15 miles and burned every house down because the wind was blowing 75 miles an hour. That's really the truth.
That's what I was saying when we were evacuated. The wind was like nothing I'd ever seen. And you combine wind with dry heat in those fires, and they move incredibly fast. Like they will chase you down fast. It's not look at it and it's a fire so we can outrun it. Like it was terrifying how quickly it moved through the brush and through the trees.
But Forrest saw this last night, and this I want to spin this real quick if I can, because this is sad. But last night, the outpouring of help of people that want to help it blows my mind, actually. And the way the community has come together over this. And me personally, you guys know I lost genetics, like genetics you can't find. And within 3 hours, we had 90% of them back. People call and say, Sub, got your blood rec. You do? Yeah. Hey, Sub, I got your Pinot. You do? Yeah, you gave it to me. Hey, Sub, I got your cherry pie so you can make cherrygasm. So while they're not in my hand, literally don't own a seed or a cannabis plant right now, about 90% of our core genetics are still around, and people are working with us to help bring them back. And just so you guys know, if you didn't pay attention, we found 500 seeds in my truck, and I know what they are, but I won't tell anybody. So did a little thing last night. We auctioned off half of them and raised $3,500, and then the other half, me and my new partner are going to start create a strain with this special seeds, and that's called the Phoenix. They'll rise from the ashes. And we germinated seeds today. Today, we germinated seeds today.
That's awesome, dude.
Hey, Stub, could you have done something different before the fire to maintain your collection in a way? Like, is there a vault, a fire-ready vault, or a safe that
people,
would...
Mark. People are the vault. You give the vault to people.
But I mean, looking back, I mean, could there have been anything that you could have done to make your
looking back simply, and I meant to do this. Looking back, I should have removed all of my genetics from one spot. I mean, I lived there, and last year we had fire, so that was. But you can do this all day long. I grabbed 1,200 grams of hash because that's what I had been making for 3 days with Frenchie and Bond. The thing that I probably would have grabbed the most, that I'm the most heartbroken about, and these are a list of 50 things. I mean, my laptop would have had my codes on it, but about a year ago, I went to the store and I bought a 2 terabyte drive about the size of a business card, and I put every photograph I've ever owned on it, and I put every song, and I put all my files on it, and I didn't pick the fucker up. I lost every photograph I've ever taken. Every photograph I've ever taken. So,
that's hard.
That's hard. It's hard. I can see the white drive sitting there by the mouse, and I can tell you, if your house is burning down, 300-foot flames, propane tanks exploding, wind blowing orange flames into your face, it is very hard to decide what to pick up and run with.
Your life.
So you could have backed that up, right? I mean, I'm not saying that. Saying that. I mean, theoretically, you could have had a backup at your sister's house or somewhere else. I mean, that's one thing you would have done looking back, which is again a lesson for all of us, because any of our houses can burn down. And absolutely.
Here's the big one, though, because we did 15 miles from my house. I mean, we have over 500,000 seeds and 20 of the moms. So we plant it. And the other thing, too, is I don't always give my moms to all one people. But here's my biggest mistake. I hope people that live in this area will, because I screwed this up. So 3 years ago, we had a threat of fire, and I didn't worry about it that much. And then some people's houses burnt down, and they always talk about it. And I've talked about a water catching systems for my cannabis. That would have been smart. And all these other things. And I never understood how serious wildfires are, because I'm not from here. And I believe that it should be mandatory to have a couple of things. My well was shared by my neighbor. So we're talking about a piece of 14-inch Romex that goes to the ground and comes to a pump. The fucking thing works and don't work half the time. The pump guy's always coming up there to work on it. If you turn on more than 3 water hoses at my house, you don't have water pressure. What was I thinking? I mean, should I have a 20,000-gallon tank on the top of my property with a valve that you open up and it just dumps water? I should have had a sprinkler system on my house. I can afford this shit. I grow weed for a living. I'm just stupid. I didn't understand that my house could burn to the ground and burn cinder blocks. And you understand what I'm saying? For $15,000, I could have prevented this. 2 5,000-gallon tanks full of water, a couple of valves. My property's uphill and downhill, so the water would run gravity feed, no pumps required. All I would have had to do was run up the hill and throw a valve, and it would have dumped water. Having said that, the fireman said it wouldn't have saved my house.
What made the house catch on fire? Was it from the roof, or was it from the walls, or from the surrounding trees?
No, there's no surrounding it. Seriously, I hate to be a dick, but it's 75-mile-an-hour winds blowing fire into the T111, and the T111 just caught on fire.
Yeah, fucking shit.
Right. The things we have seen, everybody's heard this story, but if you guys don't indulge me, I love the story. It's a great story. I'll be quick. So day 1, no clothes, no fire, no food, water toxic. Day 2, continuing of events, evacuate 5 times, on and on and on, no clothes. I'm staying in a little hotel, scared to death, traumatized. The news is traumatizing the kids. It's noisy and scary, smoky, can't see. So I go into town with Mendo Dope to get a phone cord, and on the way I see the mall is empty. So the next day I see cars. So I swing in. I see cars. I play toke with my ball with my toke, my dog. I have a couple of hits, and I go in the store. And then that's some sound effects, okay? So outside, it's there's fire, there's destruction, there's cops. And I open the door, dun, 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 and the girl from Ipanema. Every store was open. There's no one in the mall. The music's playing. It looked like the fucking zombie apocalypse. I went and got me something to eat. I went to Brookstone, sat in a massage chair, shot an episode. And I'm making flight of this. And then I went back outside, and the zombie apocalypse is still there. Fire. So If you're in a destruction, go to the mall. They have food. It's the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my life. Don't understand it.
Damn, that's hilarious, dude. In a not hilarious kind of way, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
what a fucking experience to just be, and you're in shock the whole time too.
Oh, yeah. I'm still weird. I'm in shock to the degree. We have a joke we say, and if you've ever lost a home, and I'm certainly not the only one, thousands and thousands have. And I say it very violently. I say it burnt the fuck up in the house, but it's just like, when you're telling a story, Mark, you're like, one time I met Bob Snodgrass and he gave me this really cool jar. Oh, it burnt the fuck up in the house. Oh, one time I met Bubble Man. He gave me this really cool. Oh, yeah, it burnt the fuck up in that. And that's the rest of your life if you're me. So whatever, Indra gave me, or whatever Soma gave me, or George Cervantes gave me, or whatever book or signature, it burned the fuck up in the fire. It's comical at this point.
Yeah.
I had a house burned down in Washington. We had a 360-foot tall tree on the corner of the house, a spruce tree, and a bolt of lightning struck it. And so we had a 400-foot tall blue flame that could be seen for hundreds of miles while we watched our house burn down to the river rocks in the basement. And all the while, I only saw a video because there I was in India when it happened.
So, I don't do this very often, but we got this made up right here just for some PTSD and overall health things we're concerned about with Subcool. So this is going to be going out as soon as we got an address ready to mail to this guy. See if we can get you, not only getting you to supplement your health, Subcool, with all the stress, which is not going to help, but see if we can get you, some sort of help with just the overall.
I got to tell you,
the fear.
Yeah, Forrest. After I saw that yesterday, dude, seriously, hats off. I mean, the fact that you grabbed, and just so you know, he grabbed the tray of medicine, I think, not just mine, but the fact that he had the wherewithal. I grabbed hash. I grabbed hash. That's what I grabbed, like an idiot. He grabbed medicine for people. So
yeah, we'd spent 7 hours the day before. I had spent 7 hours the day before making, medicine for families and kids, and have been, seeing Subcool and the things he's going through, and wanted to put something together. And that's all that went through my mind. It's like, what do you grab? And the one thing I thought of is, if I don't grab these locked, I have these, storage of these kids and families' medicines, then I don't know what to do with myself. Yeah, so that's the first thing that went in my car, then the family, and then we got the heck out, But as I was unpacking everything, as we were fortunate enough to be able to come back home, that's the first thing I saw, and want to know that it'll be headed out here just as soon as we can.
Thanks. Yeah, Mark, I want to tell you something. You know me a long time now, and I'm gonna make you laugh your ass off. I was on the way back from breakfast this morning, and I thought of something. This is what I thought of. Of fucking course my house burned down. Of course I was at Gypsy's house when it all went down. Of course I was involved in overgrowth. It's just my life. I don't get it. And of course I'm in the middle of the fucking California thing burning down with my phone on. Of course, right?
God, you definitely always seem to be there. Jeez. Oh. But it always seems to make you stronger. You don't come out all like, I don't ever feel bad for you. Like, you're always like,
no, you shouldn't.
Why would I feel bad for him? He's just gonna like flourish. He'll like
you should not
create some new shit.
And I gotta tell you guys, and I'm gonna shut up and let the show go back. But Dago, I gotta give it to Dago. So and y'all can be mad at me, okay? So my new thing, because I really don't give a fuck, because I don't have a house, is riding around in my truck, streaming, smoking hash, talking to the cops, fucking with everybody, playing like I'm gonna run over people, having this commentary of whatever, and I have 300 people watching me drive around and go buy donuts or some shit, and it's called riding nerdy. Since we're all stream nerds and weed nerds, it's called riding nerdy. So if you ride around streaming, hanging out with your homeboys, smoking weed, talking about the culture, you're riding nerdy.
Nice. I like it. Want to give a shout out to Claude, my good friend in Jamaica. He just hit me up in the chat room. I don't think I've ever seen him in the Hash Church chat room. So shout out to Claude. What's up, brother? Yeah. Chat room's cooking along. We got 657 viewers in the room right now, watching and listening, and using the hashtag #RideNerdy. Put a capital on that or a non-capital, however you like. Yeah.
It's just hashtag. I love you guys.
Oh yeah. Oh, Skonavark says he trademarked Riding Nerdy. Little does he know, Sam, did you want to let Skonavark know that you've already trademarked that?
Well, actually, it slipped through my fingers somehow.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the only thing to top that is to put on Weird Al Yankovic's White and Nerdy to go along with it, and then you're fucking riding it.
Oh man.
Some digger already filed it last night.
Yeah, he got it. That goes already on that shit. Oh man. Interesting week though. Just imagine, like, you know, me, I don't want to go back, but I do. So here's the thing. So there's a gun safe, okay? It's got all the seeds in it. You can see it. I can see it with a drone. I mean, I got people, okay? I got people out there looking at the shit, but the house burned the fuck down around it. So can't be seeds in it that are any good. But it's definitely you know, we want to go up there with metal detector and a team of people and fucking go up there and find out. My friend's got metal detectors. I don't have like precious gems or anything, but Jill's wedding ring was there. There's a couple of diamonds there. Jill has nothing, like nothing. No wedding rings, no earrings, no nothing. And Jill's in Oregon. Me and Jill were getting divorced the day the house burned down. And she's safe. She's got a house. I got her house. All that's cool and shit. But she has nothing. She don't have a ring. So I'm going to go buy her a ring and send it to her. Just because, you know, I mean, that's fucked up, dude. She has no jewelry. I mean, that
is fucked up. That's pretty fucked up. Crazy Doggo had a good suggestion. He wants Mendo Dope to write a song called Riding Nerdy.
Fucking I'm done. I'll text him right now. It's done.
I can already hear it. I think it's going to be pretty good.
So the boys are up there with Frenchie's machine, Mark. That's why they're quiet. And they're washing with his machine. Dude, his machine's badass.
Yeah.
The key to it is it doesn't chop the weed. And like I remember I used to use sharp ice. I used to believe he took a block ice and busted it with a hammer.
Yep.
Better.
Yep.
Frenchie says, this serrates the plant material. You must not take it gently. So his idea is you spin the weed in the ice in this big bucket is, but you do it really
Right. Well, that's
easy.
what the bubble now does.
Yep.
It just spins.
I've never seen anything like what he did, though. It was really bizarre.
well, that's a stainless steel unit. I'm not trying to compare it. I'm just saying that it's the same
No.
motion
And
of gentle
the same
mixing.
motion.
Yeah, my
But I
buddy
gotta tell
bought
you
one
that-
locally. Bad Boy bought
He did?
one locally, so he's got Frenchie coming out to do a little tour, and I'm sure I'll be over there when they're doing it.
Well, here's your big joke, okay? A bubble now, can't break your hand. First night, Badger's loading the machine into Frenchie's car. Badger's hand is still fucked up. He's smashing on the side of the truck.
No.
They're heavy. It weighs like 450 pounds, so it's it takes easy. But it was cool. It was cool under the moonlight. We lost all the footage, and the coolest part was working with Camille. Camille's there in the moonlight. Oh yeah, the camera got burnt the fuck up, dude. It's gone. So, but Frenchie's standing there in the moonlight. You know him. So he's standing there in the moonlight. I've got this great picture on my Instagram with the lights from the garden. Put this aura around him. But he just comes down in the garden. He's like, so cool. You have a much resin. I was like, fuck, thanks, dude. And he's like, it is so sticky. It is hard to work with. And when Frenchie Cannoli tells you resin is hard to work with and it's too sticky. Plus, put it in the book.
My
Call
favorite
it
kind.
good, dude. Right, yeah. So, and then Bond came and we washed hash for 3 days in a 6x6 gorilla tent. And we made 482 grams of beach sand. That's what I left the place with. So all of the hash from the crop is in people's hands. Cold as Ice Concentrates has a bin. Frenchie has a bin. 4 or 5 people at Rice has a bin. So I got 60% of my crop out there and turned it into hash. So at least I get to smoke my resin. At least I don't sit here and cry and not get to smoke it.
This is true. This is true. But losing the footage, you can still like shed a tear at least. You're allowed. I mean, damn, dude, that hurts. I'm shedding tears for you. And all the people
That's my house. Yeah.
Some of the stories were incredible. The girl that threw her dog in her bag, 70-pound dog, and rode out on the bicycle, or the couple that hid in the swimming pool. Pretty incredible stuff.
Dave with Sonoma Patient Group, and this is not some great story like the pool or anything like that. But when I tell people I lost everything, hey, I got my biker wallet, I got my knife, I had a handful of stuff. Dave ran out in his underwear through a flaming door. So when this man tells you he escaped with his life, he is for real. He got burns, and he had to run through a flaming bamboo screen and then kick a front door open to get out of his house. So he's burned. So that's pretty close right there.
Yeah, for real. Even with your underwears, that's a whole other level. Cardboard box seems pretty sad until you're the guy. Well, it's just like in India. You always think your shit, you're like, you're in India. Some guy's like, oh, your shoes aren't as nice as mine. The guy next to him doesn't even have shoes. The guy next to him doesn't even have fucking feet. The guy next to him doesn't have fucking legs or feet. Like there's always some shit like where it's just like, okay, this just keeps getting worse. Like I'm not in the worst boat. No matter what your situation is, you can be rest assured you're not in the worst boat.
But again, just because we talk about the bad stuff, the good, man, like within 6 hours, like I'll never forget. And this is the new way I grind with these headphones, though, because I can hear good. But phone rings, I hit the button, and it's just Leo with aficionado seeds. He's like, "Sup?" I'm like, "Yeah, you okay? Yeah, you lose a peanut? Yeah, I got you back. All right, talk to you later." There's a little couple of words. It's like, "I've got your Pinot Noir that makes cuvee," and your shit didn't get lost. And it's just and they do Kyle Cushman. Boom. You guys need strawberry coffee? I mean, and these are breeders that don't have to do this. Kyle does not have to give us the strawberry coffee back. He gave me the cut, and then we turned it into strains, and we make money on it. He doesn't get any residual.
But it's a nice brotherly thing to do.
It's a brotherly. I would do it. Of course I would do it. Brothers Grimm, Soul. Jack's Cleaner's been offered to me by the 4 people that have it within an hour. Don't you have the Jack, Mark?
The Jack the Ripper?
No, don't you have my Jack's Cleaner F1? I thought Bad Boy gave it to you.
Which one?
Jack's Cleaner F1.
No.
My mother. Oh, I thought you had it for a long time.
No, I never had Jack's Cleaner. That sounds more like Bad Boy.
Yeah, I thought he gave it to you, but
no, Bad Boy never gave anything in regards to genetics. He held on to that stuff pretty hardcore. There was always rules. No, I can't give this away. I can't give that away. When I got stuff, I just gave it away. I was like, here, have everything. Because I just thought that it would be better for people to have things than not have things. That way, if, something happens and you lose them, it's, the vault is the people.
Yeah. The Romulan, the Joe Pine Romulan didn't get lost. And that's because 2 people have it. That's just straight. I didn't even know. I was like, did anybody have it? And they're like, oh, yeah. He gave it to me 5 years ago. I was like,
I haven't seen the Romulan in years.
Yeah.
Shame more people weren't as giving with the Jack's Cleaner. I haven't seen that one in years.
Yeah, I always loved the Jack's Cleaner.
It's an amazing flavor.
But I think that that's part of prohibition, where if you can be the only one that has it and then you put it out and then people are buying those, it's like, it's unfortunate. My mentality as I learn and meet people like Forrest, I always tell people, I'm like, what are you worried that some poor child is going to find this as a medicine and stop, and it's going to alleviate a massive amount of suffering? Well, no, I wasn't even thinking about that. I'm like, exactly. That's your problem. What you're thinking about is, oh, some other guys are going to ruin this cultivar because they're not going to grow it as good as me, and they're going to give it a bad name, and or worse, they're going to grow it better than me, and I'm not going to be able to sell the shit that I'm growing. Both the wrong, like the fear and scarcity path.
It's the basic nature of man, Marcus.
I know.
Let's be honest.
Well, that's part of Wade's story. Why Harlequin is known to so many people is the fact that it was giving it away. But I will say, as a public service, I'd be happy to be a bank for some of you guys in these rare strains. Just as a public service, want to be there for you. Pladrius Network, be happy to store them so that you have a backup.
Dude, and there it is.
Put them to good use while I got them.
That's an awesome offer, because the Pladrius Network, it's high integrity. It's like Forrest isn't going to go start a seed bank in Amsterdam.
Nope.
So then that those cultivars, they may be getting to the.
Unfortunately, Mark, this technology and this availability is just a wrap. I mean, somebody like Forrest, I have friends, Jason with a Pheno seed bank. He's got whatever, 1 million hemp plants or whatever. These guys can do that. But up until about a year ago, and you talked about this, and I'm not contradicting you or anything, but as a breeder right now, it's a new world. So trademark, patenting, and protection. I'm not talking about medicine, because these guys, I'll give anybody the shirt off my back. But I mean, I've formed 6 seed companies myself that aren't mine. So yeah, there definitely is intellectual property that we have to worry about. But I want to get into something that's cool. So while a strain like cheese cannot be trademarked or patented, I don't know if you guys know this. I spent a lot of money to find this out. Or like say Chernobyl that I created cannot be patented, or something maybe that Bubble Man cannot be patented because it's in the public domain. Let's say Forrest grows out and I'm not going to use one of mine. Let's say Forrest grows out Ringo's Gift. And he finds a cut of Ringo's Gift that's 23, 24% CBD. It had some THCV in it. It had these combinations. And that particular plant it was special. It's special because of that content. That plant can be protected. And that's going to happen nowadays because that plant needs to become medicine. So if you had something that was 23-1 and high CBD, high THCV, you would want that to become medicine. And then as a company, you want to make sure that the product that's in that box that goes to a patient is proper. And so the reason you have to have trademarks and protection, and I know I'm pissing people off, is because unscrupulous people will take the same name, the same box, and not the same product and try to sell it to people.
Of course.
And it's just part of understanding the business.
But that's
so
also
when we have something that works. Go ahead, Marcel.
Right. That's also, I don't think that, because Chimera spoke about this in the room as well. And I think that breeding will be done to specifically find those numbers. I don't think they're going to be, I don't think as many will be accidentally popped in random bag seed things that are all in the open domain. I think it'll take like pretty intense breeding to create specific cannabinoid profiles.
Yeah.
Check your mics, guys. We got a bad echo there.
I heard it.
I hear it.
Well, I want to throw in here for a second that I really think that the idea of being able to identify specific medicines as being from specific plants is coming with the analytical testing regimen that's going to be in place, at least in California. And I assume that's happening in Washington and Colorado and whatnot, that there's a certain amount of standardization. We're coming to understand what cheese or Chernobyl looks like when it comes from the analytical labs. But I'm really a fan of the idea that cannabis should be an open source thing, man. Prohibition has created an artificial market, if you will, and the plant doesn't deserve prohibition. It's a remarkable plant. We all know that. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but it must be said that the plant's really doing the hard part, and it's like humans to try and keep an exclusive thing on it to turn it into a profit-making thing. And there's nothing wrong with making a living from what we do, but I think it's really essential when, like if Forrest were to find a specific cut of a seedling line that we're working with that turns out to be something spectacular that's really needed by a wide range of people for a wide range of conditions, it would be wrong to me. And again, I don't want to, I guess I'm putting a value judgment on it, but it would be wrong to try and hold that and make people pay for access to it. The plant's doing the hard part. All we're doing is identifying those plants and then taking care of them in a way that allows them to be made into medicine. That's really my point of view.
That's not quite exactly true. Some cannabis varieties are bred for specific cannabinoid terpene contents, and it can be a 2, 3, 4 year process involving a lot of money, a lot of growing, a lot of research with a laboratory. So it can be a very expensive process, and the people who do that shouldn't be discouraged from doing it. They should be encouraged. Don't we want to find out more about cannabis? Don't we want more sophisticated breeding instead of less sophisticated? I do.
I can see both sides of it, and they're just different sides. It's like when you come from one side of it and what you're doing, it's like, yeah, that's open source for sure. But then I also understand someone's spending I gotta mute your guys' mic. Sorry, it's doing the whole echo. There we go. I think it was Wade's. I also understand the spending money on lab technicians and machinery and testing and greenhouses and people to work in those greenhouses and the years of work that can be done to actually produce a plant that is unique in that sense. I see both sides. I mean, I sit with Wade in the sense like, yeah, really, I love the utopian version of it should not be held over people's heads, but at the same time, in every other aspect of life, it's hard to like, you would be discouraged in business if you were just like, yeah, and by the way, after you spend this millions of dollars of your own money, self-fund everything, you're not getting paid back because, you know, you shouldn't really be able to profit from this. It's a tough, I see both sides.
Maybe both need to be both nonprofit and for-profit, because unfortunately, nonprofit will not drive the industry as quickly or as open as for-profit. And I have nothing against people profiting from cannabis. I prefer they didn't do it from people who need medicine, but except for that, for recreational, which is the majority of cannabis use, I see nothing wrong with people making a profit. I think in the future that profit will be a lot smaller, but yeah, we haven't gotten there yet.
I don't know. It just reminds me of kind of like, it's just hard to really put your thumb on it exactly, but there's something in that dialogue for sure, Wade. There's something to be more discussed in that.
Yes, I want to totally agree with what Sam said. I guess for me, it really has to do with if that plant is providing something that a family or an individual needs for their life, it seems wrong to make them pay, especially a lot, for the opportunity to have access to it. Whereas we all know that cannabis has many expressions that people really enjoy enough and aren't in a situation where they have to have it, where there's room for folks that have discretionary income. By the time someone's catastrophically ill, typically their family has no money left. And then to ask them to pay out of pocket large amounts of money in order to have access to medicine that can help their child is, yeah, that's where it gets hard for me. That's all I'm saying. And I think there's a lot of room, as Sam said. Sam nailed it, so I'll shut up.
You know, we're not going to have to reinvent the wheel here. I think a lot of times with cannabis, we walk into it like these questions haven't been asked before, but, you know, cultivar rights and proprietary rights isn't a new thing. People do it with melons and tomatoes and all sorts of other things, and there's a law there that people can look at. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert in it, but it's just hard. They fight that today with certain melon varieties, right? But it's hard to sell it and hold it at the same time, because, you know, what do people do? They breed that melon a couple times, they breed it with another melon, it's a little bit different, and then they name it their new melon, you know. So it's one of those double-edged swords where, yeah, a lot of work goes into it, but the plant's is only going to allow us to own it so much. So, you know, I think that it's hard, you know, but I think the only real way to keep a strain yourself is to just not let it out anywhere and make a singular product out of it. And, you know, that's what the big boys do, right? GW Pharmaceuticals has a couple strains that I would kill to get my hands on. But they're not going to let it out, you know, and that's where I hope that we find a good balance in between those two, because there's, like has been said over and over again, there's just that balance between the work and the money put in and the right to profit from your hard work. And the point where the only way to really control it is going to be in a way that really limits the amount of people who can have access to it to such a degree that almost, you know, no one can. If you look at the big numbers and the big picture and the whole, you know, country and world and planet, etc. So,
what do you need GW strains for?
It's not that I need GW strains. I just know they have strains that I can't find at the moment on the in the open market that are just really very specific cannabinoid and terpene profiles.
Same thing, however, the ones that Sam gave him.
Yes, Dr. Russo spoke about knowing that GW had cultivars that were producing 15 and 20% of CBC, for example, as well as THCV and CBDV. That was this spring.
With specific, well, I mean, yeah, they're out there everywhere. I just use that as an example of someone who has or a company that has some really uncommon strains. I think the one that Dr. Russo mentioned, I was at that lecture. It was high in CBC and CBD, and then what also made it really unique is really high in the terpene lanolol. So for someone who's an antispasmodic sort of, I've always got my eyes out for the compounds that have pharmacological effects in that direction. My ears perk up with those sort of things for sure. But you know, it's not going to get out because they know that, you know, it's either you have it or it's out. You know, I don't see how we're struggling with how to control that in between, but you know, I don't know if there is a perfect solution for that.
Well, if you look at the cut flower industry, what they do is, for example, you breed a new rose, you release it, it's mass produced in Kenya, Colombia, several other tropical countries, and you get royalties on it to the breeder. So there's a standardized way of working with trees, flowers, vegetables. There is with cannabis too. It's just not legal in America yet.
And if they're doing it with roses, then obviously it's not some huge like 800% interest for the genetics. It's just a small little.
It's a royalty fee for producing the clone or the dried material or the whatever.
Right. So it didn't crush the flower industry. I'm sure as long as those royalties are kept reasonable, it probably won't crush the cannabis industry. I mean, already, in my opinion, prohibition prices and the continuation of prohibition prices right into the civil disobedient dispensaries and then right into the licensed producers, the prices just never changed. They've maintained the same price from when it was totally illegal and we were being jailed to, hey, now you can do it, but guess what? We're not fucking making it any cheaper. We want to fucking get, you know, LPs, like some LPs sell herb for $5 a gram, which is like the great deal, but that's still like over $2,000 a pound for something that, you know, that probably doesn't cost anywhere near $2,000 to grow.
And it's going to crush the small farmer, you know, because really you're just going to need a ton of money to participate in an artificially inflated market. Yep. And, you know, we see them panicking, and rightfully so, here in Northern California. It's scary.
But the market that has existed for the last 30, 40 years was never real. It was always artificial based on prohibition. Without the risk, there shouldn't be the reward, quite frankly.
Right, and they're building tax structures. This is part of my platform with the Caladrius Network. A lot of it started because I looked at the tax structures they're building, and they're built off of prohibition and prohibition prices, which aren't anyone, especially I would think congressmen and women would understand. Have taken some economics classes. Anyone who's taken, you know, your basic economics class knows that it's the marketplace they're building this infrastructure off of is not going to exist as soon as prohibition ends nationwide, at least the way the United States work. I think it's artificially, people say, well, look at Colorado and others and how it is. Well, yeah, well, they're surrounded by prohibition, and that market is going to be impacted by the prices around them and the necessity around them. But, you know, what we have now is just a system that's being written and directed based off of prices that don't even exist anymore, let alone, you know, are going to exist in the future. And it's that, and there's no, in most, I don't know how it's going in Canada, but in most, there's no thought whatsoever being put into cannabis that's being grown to not sell. So not only is it the sales numbers completely off based on prohibition, but there's absolutely no sort of charitable work written into any of the laws. So essentially what puts places like the Collagius Network from, I would say, out of business, but out from being able to run is the tax structure and requirements that are being written and how it's being written more than anything. Boom.
Well said. Thank you, Forrest. I'm just found a bag of Johnny B's Medi Kush, and I've decided that I'm going to squish whatever this is. I think it's like 5 or 6 grams. I just need to hit some Medi Kush rosin while I listen to the great conversation, and sometimes jump in and be a part of it.
So yeah, if anybody wants to back to that mystery strains, you can see any of those high CBC, high CBC, little bounce of THC, and some
CBC is tough to produce in normal plants.
Yeah,
they do it by using a special variety, which I found, which has what's called juvenile. It stays in a juvenile state instead of fully flowering, and it produces more CBC in that state than it does as a full flowered plant.
That's what they have as far as their CBG varieties as well, correct? Because I know GW Pharmaceuticals has some basically genetic fluke type plants that just produce CBG. Like it doesn't trigger the next phase to produce other cannabinoids.
Yeah, it's lacking the next synthesis, correct.
So, Sam, a specific question: would one be more likely to find CBC and CBG in abundance in genetics that took a long time to finish or never finished flowering?
I don't think so. I found one, and it was just different, and I felt it. And I saved it for a couple of years, and then we tested it. Found out it had CBC in it, small amounts, and then GW, through with my breeder, found that the juvenile flowering recessive genes were also making the percentage even higher. So they created varieties that clonal varieties that had that for CBC.
Do they know the genes responsible that they express the synthase for CBC?
It's a CBC synthase gene.
Yeah. So is that known? Is there, Yeah,
that's well known.
So I wonder. I mean, just thinking about what T1 Life Sciences did with synthase, which is, can they put the synthase in the yeast now and express it in yeast?
Well, that's what all of these folks were doing, because there was the German group and there was 2 other groups worldwide that were doing this kind of preliminary work, and various ones inserted various synthases in and were able to produce THC from CBG or CBD from CBG. But none of them had made the entire chain where they were producing CBG, which was then synthesized into the next cannabinoid target. But it will be done, and they were all talking about targeting things like CBC and CBG because they're rare and difficult to find compared to THC and CBD.
What were the percentages of CBC that you were seeing in those? Sam, if you don't mind me asking.
If I'm remembering off the top of my head, I think they weren't that high, like because they weren't flowering so much, But when you consider it to how much CBC you find in normal varieties, it was really a lot. It was approaching 10%, if I remember correctly.
Wow. That is there a reason CBC can't be now bred and isolated in kind of the same way CBD was, where we were surprised to see 6 or 7% strains 10 years ago, and now
well, you can breed for it the same way, but it's in very low levels. Whereas if you do certain tricks like GW did, then you get it in much higher levels.
So again, Sam.
Long awkward pause.
Long awkward pause. Yeah, I'm still thinking about this. So, what about that original plant that you identified that I think you said that you liked it or that it stood out, that turned out to have some CBC that then you kept working with and eventually found this one that had as much as 10%? Was there anything specific that stood out about the plant or made you?
Yeah, there was
pay
something
attention to it?
there was something I did not like about it. In other words, I'm not particularly fond of CBD or CBC, and it had both of those, but more CBC. And
You're talking about something you didn't like in its growing, or something
I didn't like the way it smelled, the way it's just its general characteristics, the way resin from CBD plants is not really super sticky and greasy, oily the way THC is, but a little bit in that direction.
You remember? Did you do any terpene tests on that?
No, unfortunately, I never terpene tested it. But what I did do was the seed was imported by a friend of mine from Afghanistan.
Mm.
It was a direct Afghan seed import.
That's where we find the good ones. All right. Well, we got some quiet time here. You know, I know that I see Marcus setting up the machine over there, but I don't know. I wasn't on right away, so I was still trying to get myself together this morning. But maybe while we have some downtime, I don't know if Wade told you about the adventure he had fighting off wild animals at his property, and then using cannabis topicals that we make to run some tests with. Wade, did you tell that story before I got on?
Was that raccoon?
Yeah, no, I told the story last week and showed my hands. I don't know if you can really see what's going on, but I'm still wearing a splint. This thumb was torn up pretty badly and it's healed up. Yeah, both hands were torn up real badly, but this one I started using our cannabis cream on 2 days after I went swimming with the raccoon. And yeah, it was pretty dramatic, the change. Literally, this hand is pretty much healed. I've got a couple of spots where there's still deep wounds that are healing, but all the claw damage that happened to my wrist and hand is gone. And that was within the first couple of days. Let's see, what was it? On Thursday, 3 days after the attack, I saw my primary care physician and showed him my hands. They did what's called a wound check. And I asked him if he could tell which hand I'd been using cannabis cream on, because I told him about my healthcare approach. And yeah, he spotted the difference right away. And we talked for a few minutes about what that cream was and what I was doing with it. And yeah, I just want to say that a topical preparation prepared for ready assimilation into the skin that has CBD and THC and some of them still in the acid form, some of the oils that Forrest and I are working with, not only helped a lot with the pain of healing and the itching, but the new skin that's growing over the bigger wounds is really tender and it feels like it's on fire if I touch it. But meantime, if I put some of this cream on, yeah, I've been working in the garden and taking down plants and whatnot.
Yeah, so
looking forward to getting rid of this splint this week.
That's the cream that we make for our EB kids, and bring it back to some of what we were talking about in the beginning with Keagan there. that has, and we found a big boost in efficacy when we reintroduced terpenes at the end of the process, cold. A big boost in efficacy. So we have those terpene isolates as well, like he was talking about, and it doesn't take much. You know, it is expensive if you are trying to run it into a really high level model like you would with smoke or vaped material, but it little does go a long way with some of those terpenes. Look at that squish Bubble Man's got going. How'd it turn out?
Pretty good.
Been pricing short path distillation setups and rosin presses for the Caladrius Network's goal to be 100% solvent free in the next couple years. Those Sasquatch machines look pretty sweet.
Okay, so I had a quick question. I was thinking about what I think it was Indra had said a little bit earlier about was it being able to get down to like negative 180 degrees to kind of find out what terpenes might be there?
140, yeah.
Yeah, 140. Bubbleman, I'm sure that you've done a lot of lyophilizing of plant material for dry sift.
You're sure that I've done what? Sorry? A lot of...
freeze drying plant material?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say a lot, but enough that I know about it.
Time or two. Right. I had done a batch on, maybe about 6 months ago, and I had noticed that when pulling that vacuum and kind of having that deep freeze, that there were definitely some kind of terpenes that we were pulling at those really cold temperatures. And I wasn't able to get those analytically tested, but I thought that was kind of a really cool kind of anecdotal piece.
Yeah, so Andrew jumped off. You know, I don't know what he's talking about. Liquid nitrogen is about minus 195. So you don't really need a special engineering. All you need is a doer, a supply contract to get liquid nitrogen, and you're there, dude.
He was talking about a specific pump.
We're talking about doing it without going out and buying liquid nitrogen all the time, Brain Boy. We're got a heat pump that uses helium and gets it down to those temperatures where we need it to be without running out.
Indra, stop deep throating your mic.
Yeah, your mic.
No deep
I don't understand this microphone.
You know, liquid nitrogen's pretty.
Okay, but listen, the Stirling engine will reduce it down to 140, and I'm thinking that we will find some stuff in that area. You know?
Yeah, but you just have a
really interested to find out what that is.
And you.
I know you're a big fan of liquid nitrogen.
And you have your.
I am about certain things, but I'm also a big fan of collecting terpenes, and I've been at it for a little while now, and I think that we're headed in the right direction with this Stirling heat pump. See, and then we'll announce what happens, and if it's good, we'll make them available.
That's cool.
That's all we're saying. We're going to give it a shot. Sorry about the microphone. I don't know how to turn it down. I'll have to work on finding out.
Just talk quieter.
It's already 3 feet away from my mouth. Okay. How's that? Is that any better?
Perfect. It's wonderful.
Yeah, you're on point now.
You're on point. I'm going to hit some of this Medikush rosin that I just made. Thanks to the Sasquatch M1. Here we go.
The point is if you're trapping your vacuum lines and you're just using a simple cold trap, all you need is liquid nitrogen inside a dewar, and you could trap all that. You don't need to wait for some company to come out with some device that doesn't exist yet. So it's been used for, you know, a long time. This is how you keep your vacuum pump from not seizing up all the time, because
well, there's always the future.
There's always the exact reason that we're making it is as an advanced system for vacuum pump saving, and on our large commercial system, we're looking for a way to gather a lot of terpenes. And we think that if we have the right temperature and we bring it through that we'll be able to collect, you know, massive amounts of terpenes. So the 710 scientific one that I have now that we sell called the Blue Meanie. It's a very excellent one. I find no problems with it. We've had it tested. I think we had some contaminated material once, so it came up with some minor amounts of something in it, but we tracked it down what it was, and the machine works excellently. We're just going to try to go through a much colder machine, that's all. We might want to run it for a long period of time, and liquid nitrogen is expensive. You know, if over a long period of time, you pay a lot of money for liquid nitrogen.
Not only that, for people that don't know, when you order that shit, you got to use it. Like, it's not going to just last forever. It dissipates.
Yeah, within a few hours, even in a dwar.
Yeah, I guess depending on your
Oh,
dwar.
bullshit. That's absolute bullshit. You can keep it for several days in a multi-liter dewar. I'm telling you. That's absolute bullshit. They have dewars you can
2 days is the most. 2 days is the most I've ever had it stored for, and I've got a whole bunch of the best money can buy dwars here. So I know that they don't fucking last anymore.
I had a buddy that has liquid nitrogen in his garage. For
It would be best if you guys didn't talk at the same time. So when one's talking, what the other does is they close their mouth and they listen, and then you wait for your turn, and then you say what you want to say in return. We'll listen to this all day if you guys want to go back. We're good to go here.
I'm just saying that one is widely available. Liquid nitrogen is widely available to people.
Yep.
So.
Well, I'll tell you this much from a person who was going to start playing around with liquid nitrogen. As widely available as it is, it was still a bit of a pain in the ass to kind of get it ordered up and get the dewar and do the whole, all that sort of thing. And when there's that aspect of things in any aspect of business, someone's going to come out with something that makes it easier for people. I mean, Indra uses a lot of liquid nitrogen.
I do. I use it for crushing. I use it for cryogenic.
Whereas,
crushing.
for example, Mark, I know you know about liquid nitrogen. How do you use it often?
Yes. Use it to make sure that, again, whenever you pull a vacuum, that you're not pulling.
But this is in what you're talking about an extraction that you're doing.
No, talking about using it to trap anything that you're pulling a vacuum on. So, particular. High vacuum distillation.
Right.
Distillation or anything that you're putting vacuum on, including vacuum ovens where you're trapping something, you have to trap it somehow, and you trap it cryogenically, typically with it's nothing more than what's called a cold finger, which is like a really long test tube with a glass tube, that goes down to the bottom. And these things basically sit in another dewar that you pour liquid nitrogen into. And then when you pour liquid nitrogen into it, you could usually like wrap like a little thermal blanket around to keep it from evaporating. But those usually stay good overnight. I've even kept those traps on a 2-liter coal finger for, multiple days. So, you can keep liquid nitrogen down there for a while. And just the point is that rather than pulling all of that into your vacuum pump, you should be trapping that. And typically, again, liquid nitrogen is the preferred way of trapping it. Some people use slushes of like acetone and dry ice, and that'll work. That's like about -78, but liquid nitrogen is -195, and so you should try to do liquid nitrogen if you can do it. If not, dry ice acetone works to get you down to -78 at least.
Well, anyway, I like our new deep cold pump. I don't look. You say it's readily available, but I have to take a 4-hour drive to get liquid nitrogen myself. I live in the middle of the woods, but electricity is still being piped into me. So, a cold pump is a handy thing for me. I use a lot of liquid nitrogen. We go and get a couple of giant containers of it weekly and bring it back. But we use it, every time I'll fill a 50-gallon drum up with flowers, maybe 75 pounds of flowers, pour in a quart of liquid nitrogen, cover it with a 3/4 inch plywood board, count to 50, open it up, and I take a 4x4 to it, and within about 2 minutes, I have complete green powder down, occupying only about 2 inches of the drum. So I use it a lot, but I still prefer the mechanical cold traps with the cold pumps on them so far.
No, I mean,
Well, once again, that's what this is all about. It's not. It's all about offering options. All this information is about offering options. If you know about another option, that's great. They're all options that people can have, and we just constantly get stuck in this sort of like, no, this is what you need to do. This is what everyone's doing. It's like, well, if we stayed with that, we would never move forward and create things that were innovative and new and exciting. And so,
no, but like
both are right.
As you look at Keagan's lab there, he's got tanks of CO2 there. The same company that provides those tanks also provides liquid nitrogen. So again, yeah, is it difficult to get it and difficult to get to areas? Yeah, probably. But in other more urban areas or areas where you can buy compressed gases and liquids, you can buy liquid nitrogen. Is it expensive? Yes. You have to rent the dewars. It's a whole thing. But yeah, having it around the laboratory, having it around the laboratory is a really key thing for several reasons. So since you're already going to have liquid,
but by the way, people asking about using CO2 to do the same thing. No, do not use CO2 to get your stuff cold to crush it. CO2 inherently gathers a lot of water and will make your stuff damp, and that's the last thing you need.
Hey, welcome Alec from SC Labs in the house. I see that he just showed up. What's going on, dude?
Hello, happy Hash Church.
Showing up towards the end. We got another 15 minutes left. What's going on in the world of Alec?
Nice. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I just wanted to pop in and catch the end of it. If anything, just listen to the awesome conversations. But yeah, I just got back from an event as a conference up in Oakland. This event, New West Summit. It's like a tech cannabis type event. It was pretty cool. But nice. Yeah, so just got back to Santa Cruz. Beautiful day. You know, it looks like some of the smoke has subsided from Santa Cruz, which is pretty awesome. It's crazy how much fires are burning up in Northern California still, though, yet fully uncontained or fully contained. It's I think only like 25-30% in Sonoma County.
Jesus, that's crazy. It is crazy. This like late in the season, just like no rains and mad winds and dry brush and trees just ready to go up.
Yeah, no, it's really fascinating to kind of see how the whole kind of cycle went with, you know, we got, you know, tons of water, you know, earlier this year, but, you know, if anything, that grew the grass out quite a bit for extra kindling to burn. And yeah, it's you know, never experienced kind of from within the state disaster. I think that's affected as many, you know, close people in my life and friends and family that we have in our community. And so, yeah, it's a lot of prayers and blessings go out to everybody that's been affected and going through this really difficult time.
Yeah, it's been pretty brutal. Subcool was on earlier. He was telling us about raising a bunch of money through the Weed Nerds Nation. They've been putting money together for people in need and clothes and food and whatnot. So that's pretty awesome to see. At the same time, people coming together, helping those most in need.
No, you know, that's been a really, really inspiring and exciting thing, you know, kind of so much people within our community that have resources and ability, you know, whether or not that's, you know, kind of small donations or, you know, kind of donations of cannabis or, you know, just crowdfunding and mobilizing the effort to, you know, help show support. And I feel like, yeah, we as a community kind of have such an obligation, you know, just, you know, to do good with this plant, and, you know, and empowers us to do that. And so I think, you know, anybody that's, you know, doing anything in their power to donate or to, you know, help raise relief towards these Northern California fires, whatever type of, you know, GoFundMe or fundraiser or what have you, I think is amazing. So.
Oh yeah, dude.
I think the point is to just do something.
Yeah, exactly.
Take your, you know, thoughts and prayers and feel good about them at the end of the night, but don't, you know, you got to do something physical. Take action, donate money, volunteer time.
100%.
Do something physical.
You know,
idea.
My dad used to say that. He said it slightly differently. He would say, "Get off your ass."
Totally.
That's the old school way of saying it.
Yeah, I mean, wishing for things to change is great, and hoping things change is cool, I guess. But you know, unless you get up and do something to make change, you're really just kind of not doing much. You know.
Yeah, there's no time to be an armchair activist right now.
That's right.
It's actually doing something.
That's right. I know people on the panel know that because they live it, and something that I try to model for everybody. But it's amazing what a little bit of just deciding you want to make change will do. You know, a few hours of wanting to make change and getting off your ass and doing something will produce more results than the last 2 years of hoping and wishing and you know, waiting for someone else to make that change. You know, so everyone listen in, don't wait for someone else to donate $5. Stop right now. Get to Soil King, get to Subcool's group, get to whatever charity you see is putting money into good work, and just do it. Just do it already, would you?
You vote with your dollars more than you actually vote in any election. So, you know, if you've got any kind of spare change, you know, your spare change adds up when other people throw in their spare change, and that adds up to people who have absolutely nothing. I've lost my house. I've lost in a fire. I told you guys a week before Christmas, you know, done by my own hand. Jeez. So I know what it's like to lose absolutely everything. And I unfortunately know what they're going through, and it's absolutely ungodly painful. And I was a child. I was only 7. I can't imagine being the responsible adult with having the bills owed and the mortgage on the house, et cetera, and then your savings and your opportunity, and here you were just trying to get yourself legally set up with a farm so that you could be in the legal market, and boom, everything's gone in the blink of an eye. And people have lost their opportunities to move forward even in the legal market here in California. And that's what's sad, is the opportunities lost, because we have some very good people, but just by chance of where wind and fire went, those chances are literally gone up in smoke, no pun intended. So anything that anybody can contribute. Right now, I know the big problem is they have more than enough stuff. Right now, they need help organizing and sifting through and making sure this gets to that. So I know many of my employees actually volunteered, went up to various spots yesterday just to do just that, just to separate clothes from sizes, from just trying to get things set so when people can come, they can actually distribute this stuff properly, you know, because it's not only to just for it to be there, it needs to be distributed properly. So that's going to take some time, and it's not easy to do, and it's very frustrating, and it takes long hours. So not only is stuff needed, your volunteerism and your time. So if you're able to be within an area and to volunteer to come down, they need help. You know, these first responders, you know, go buy them pizza, go buy them coffee, go get them whatever, you know. I see Californians out here who are feeding them all the time. So do what you can. Every little bit helps, you know, even if it's just spare change, that helps. Even if it's signing petitions. But as we were talking earlier, don't forget us. Remember, 6 weeks from now, we're going to be having many benefits for a long time, because it's going to take a very long time for this to change and for people to recover. And this is the time where we have to take care of our own. There are no government, there is no insurance. This is where we, on the other side that we have been on the fence on, we always take care of our own. And this is where we need to reach out. So, you know, do go through your closets. If there's clothing that you can donate, go through your pantries. If there's food that you can donate, if you're a cook and you can get down there and cook, you know, Guy Fieri's out there cooking and feeding first responders and people right now, you know, so people shit on him all the time, but, you know, mad respect, he's out there right now feeding people, making sure that, you know, they're fed, which is a key thing right now. When people are in shock, just a simple thing as food means more than anything to help get them and regain their self, so that they can regain their spirit, so that they can have the strength to move on, to get to another day. And these first responders are exhausted. They've been fighting for days, weeks now, and they need food, supplies, and hopefully some respite, you know, but every little bit counts, people. So don't forget, you know, you have a voice. You can vote with your dollars. Please contribute if you can, where you can.
Shout out
Thanks.
to Trippy Sticks, Emilio. He's CHSN415 on Instagram. He was getting food for like a couple hundred people the other day. Just like, I'm getting food. I've got them making it right now, and he's just like driving out and getting food to people. I thought that was a really cool thing. You don't have to wait. You don't have to. You know, sometimes people don't want to wait. They want to do their own thing, and that's another great way of doing it too. So.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's really well put, you know, all around, you know, because there's the immediate needs, you know, the volunteering for the, you know, first response and kind of ongoing response, and then, you know, and then for people that are afar, you know, I mean, you can't kind of put out there enough how, you know, just small donations of money, like the Bernie Sanders $25 donations just built up for across our community can be so impactful, you know, and there's so many different funds now. So it's you know, trying to identify, you know, which ones are which, but, you know, I mean, it would be really great, you know, even if, you know, we could kind of put up some links to some of these local fire reliefs. You know, there's, you know, I know the SoCo Fire Relief, Sonoma County Fire Relief, North Bay Fire Relief, the Tubbs Fire Victims for Santa Rosa County Community. There's the Mendo Fire, which is the kind of Cal Growers Wildfire Relief Fund, which is kind of organized by CGA, the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance, Humboldt County Growers Alliance. There's the Napa Valley Community Disaster Relief Fund, and then in Mendocino County. And it's what's really crazy about so much of this is, you know, a lot of the fires that have just been decimating Mendocino County haven't even been really broadcast on, you know, any of the news and TV. And there's been a lot on TV kind of around, you know, some of the fires in Napa and Sonoma, and, you know, a lot of media around kind of the vineyards and the mansions burning, but you know the kind of, you know, the Redwood Complex fire kind of there's a fund, the Mendo Glen Redwood Complex Fire Fund, you know, that's an important one, and like Mendo Fire for the Cal Growers Wildfire Relief Fund, like I mentioned. But anything anybody can do, I mean, it's just such a dire time of need, you know, and also to big ups to, you know, the Absolute Extracts Canacraft team, you know, they're housing for the next, you know, kind of 4 or 6 weeks, something like that, you know, 200 members, and, you know, are kind of on the ground then, you know, kind of helping in the ways they can. And so anything anybody can do, just, you know, this is such a huge time for action.
Well, like Etienne said, you know, a lot of people will say, well, I don't have any money to give. Sure, everyone's struggling, but time is some of the most valuable things you can give. Human labor is expensive, you know. If you could not hang out at home for the day and get out there and make deliveries and let the people who are organizing everybody give you a job to do, that has direct, real impact that you can look back on at the end of the day and know that you played a part in trying to mend some of these things. They need people.
And also too, you know, in this time where, you know, a lot of people pulled in record harvests where, you know, they don't necessarily have a tremendous amount of money to donate or give, but have tons of cannabis. You know, there are a couple distributors that are, you know, making these initiatives to kind of basically donate 100% of proceeds of farmer donated cannabis back to the different fire relief funds. And so, you know, I know Alta Supply in the Bay Area is doing that, and you know, there's a couple others. I mean, I want to even say the Canacraft team is doing something of similarity, but yeah.
Well, I definitely know that we've put the word out for the Caladrius Network for families of kids who might not be catastrophically ill, but children with epilepsy and other things who've lost their medicine, or those pediatric sort of cannabis medicine treatments, those people who are affected that might not have qualified initially, but are in a serious situation because of the fires. We've put out in a couple of venues to have them reach out to us, and we will do everything we can to keep them supplied until they can get back on their feet and what they need again. So everybody do their thing and chip in. But yeah, if people out there hearing that there's people in those communities where their kids are in a situation where they're in trouble now, I hope they would get them in touch with us right away.
I'm going to try and put up all these links in the comments section of this episode, but also on the Facebook Hash Church page. I want to thank everyone for coming out today. We rocked a good solid 4 hours or 3 hours. 3 hours is solid. Time flies when you're having good conversation and get going in deep. So yeah, thanks Keagan for coming in and sharing your time with us and showing us the CO2 that you got going on, dude. I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Right on, cool. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude, we'll keep the links for sure. And of course, Indra, thank you as always for coming in. Galadrius Network, Forest representing. We'll have that link put up. And Etienne, always first in the room. Such an appreciative thing from my perspective. It makes life easier. Skunkman Sam and Wade Laughter, thank you both for coming in and sharing your stories. And,
Good night. Adios.
Yes, adios, Sam. Dr. Mark Scialdone, play us out, buddy. Play us out. Alec from SC Labs, thanks for coming in and sharing some time, dude.
Thank you. Love you all. Blessings. Happy Hash Church.
Yeah, and Samurai Sam High in the house. And yeah, thanks for coming out, dude. Thanks for making this church happen and instigating the conversation. It was Sam's idea to invite Keagan in and then also to get in as much as we could to talk about the fires and how we could kind of point people in the right direction and show ways of helping and whatnot. So Mark's going to play us out. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys. Have a good week.
Thank you, Marcus, for doing Hash Church.